Hello and welcome all to the final round of the RCI Deutschland Masters Season 2. From intense battles for the lead to some mixed condition madness, this scene has been delivering the goods week in, week out, and quite poetically, the final round brings us to what is considered one of the toughest and greatest racetracks on Earth. I'm Callum Kerrigan. Joining me in the comms box today is Callum Kerwin. Yes, you heard that correctly. We have Callum squared in the booth today. The man, the myth, Stewie, as ever, killing it behind on the broadcast. And a big shout out to our live stewarding team who are going to be looking after the race today. Strap in because we have 90 glorious minutes of GT3 action here at the iconic Nordschleife.
Yeah, Callum, but first, 30 minutes of qualifying. So, bit of a longer qualifying session this week, just due to the length of the lap, really, allowing people to get out, get a full out lap in, and then get at least one or two decent qualifying laps in on the board. Obviously, with it being the green hell, with so much lap time per lap, we did need that little bit of an extended qualifying session. And as you said, a longer race as well, 90 minutes.
90 minutes at the Green Hill. I mean, we really teed ourselves up here, Callum, for something absolutely extraordinary. I remember one of my first broadcasting experiences was here on the Nordschleife, just as it came out here on ACC, and that was a race to remember. I mean, judging by how the season's gone already, we are in for an absolute treat here as you ride on board with Nico Kumpu, who's just coming through the GT section of the track, probably just about to enter the Nordschleife. I mean, when it comes to quali, we are allowed to use the GP section as part of our outlap, but really track position here is going to be key. It's the green hell. You've already said mistakes are going to be made. Avoiding the barriers is going to be absolutely key, not only in qualifying but in the race, but giving that distance. So if you see a yellow flag ahead, to make that corrective move and prepare yourself to go, right, we've got a car coming in, we need to make sure we're aware, otherwise your quali could also be in the bin.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough for these guys. Obviously, it's so undulating here and there's so many blind corners. A yellow flag could mean anything as we go to the beautiful helmet cam as we come down actually onto the Nordschleife proper itself, up towards the back straight leading up to the Flugplatz here, with Nico Kumpu as he drops it through. Porsche quite good through here, rear engine though, so it will be a little bit more leery in some of these twistier parts of the Nordschleife, but very good on the GP circuit and very good in the straight line from my memory of ACC as well. Nico Kumpu, we were talking about in the sort of pre-broadcast, quite unlucky this year. Like he, had that bad result at Zolder, where he had that disconnect coming back up to try and gain as many points as possible, and very much mathematically still in the running to win the thing, but very much could have been right up there with a point or two's difference if he hadn't had that disconnect, could he?
You're absolutely right, Callum. Just to run through, I guess, what we do have in terms of a championship fight here. Marko Badowski currently on 258 points. An absolute dominant season for him so far. And the only person mathematically that can challenge him, although it's a bit of a mountainous ask, is Nico Kumpu, who we're riding on board with, who has had an equally strong season, but had a disconnect earlier on in the season at Zolder, which put him right at the back of the field. Managed to claw his way back to a fastest lap and P23 off memory. So we are in a bit of a case of what could have been, but this is the Nordschleife. If Badowski has a poor race here, gets almost nil points, and Kumpu takes the win, the fastest lap and pole, which is very achievable considering looking at the practice server. The Porsche is looking mightily quick round here today. We could see a late dramatic change in what would be the fight for the championship.
It's very possible, yeah. But well, speaking of people who could be fighting up the front, we do have a couple of people who haven't raced previously in this championship but have jumped in just to do this big 90 minutes. One being the man who I have replaced, our very own John Dalton from the commentary box. We've got high hopes for John. I think between the two of us, I think we think he could do pretty well. He's rapid. He's messaged me earlier today, showing me some of his pace in the practice service. It looks really good. Rooting for Team John a little bit here. I think as much as I've replaced him in the booth, but yeah, no, John very much could be up there at the top. He's been messing it in every series he takes part in. So, and we've got Ted as well in there. Again, just coming in for this race, having not done any of the other previous rounds. Catalude in the Porsche as well, coming in for just this round only. But obviously Nico Kumpu and Badowski are the two fighting for the championship win.
Yeah, when Nordschleife calls, people will answer. Obviously, it's such a beloved track, and obviously the most recent laser scan in sim racing is what we have here on ACC. So you do tend to see when the Nordschleife comes round, you will get those one-off sign-offs. So people that just want to race and absolutely love this track. And with 90 minutes of Nordschleife fun, I mean, why could you not? Speaking of what we have in tail for the race, there is a BOP in place. It's been working really well all season long. We've had some brilliant fighting up the top between all four manufacturers we have here today. Obviously, all of a German make manufacturer, hence the name Deutschland Masters. But the Audi is a +7 kilos. BMW with +22, the Merc with a -23, and the Porsche also has a -23. So all that weight that it's usually carrying, which drags that sort of tyre wear, and one of that hindrance that we have on the Porsche, probably feeling a little bit light today, probably feeling a little bit nippy, which is probably why we see it as so strong. 90-minute race, but the 57 pit window is still in play, and I think that's quite interesting from a pit stop perspective. I'm expecting people to take tyres halfway through the race, get a fresh set of boots on you, even though you will gain in the pit stop time. But the 57-minute window means if you do have an incident lap 1 or lap 2, you're going to have to endure a lap or two of running before we can actually get in the pit to box and repair that damage. And I think that's going to be key. I think this race really, as well as foot to the floor, for me, this is survival, and I think for the people at the back, just getting those laps in, keeping it up the walls is really going to be the difference, especially in this championship fight where we've got so many people close on points, which we'll run through. That could be the difference between a P20 to a P10 finish championship with how close this is.
Yeah, and getting into 90 minutes, you're starting to get into endurance race territory. I know it's not sort of the 4-hour mark that we categorize endurance races at, but 90 minutes is sort of, it's definitely, by no means is this a sprint. By no means is this a short race where people can have to go at it full flat, and that tends itself to the Nordschleife. It's very difficult on it at every corner here. There will be big differences between cars in different sections of circuit. You will naturally be faster than somebody, say, down the straights than in the twisty bits up sort of like at the top of the hills. So it's not going to be a race where everyone is on full pelt maximum attack every minute of every lap. There is going to have to be, as you said, some self-preservation here as Nico Kumpu comes on to the long final straight, running back down towards the start of the GP loop again to finish his out lap here, I believe. So yeah, as you said, self-preservation is going to be a massive thing. Not getting involved in first lap shunts, especially for those people up the top end. But as you said, we've got quite a few close championship battles. You do not want to get involved in an incident lap 1.
Absolutely not. Survival is going to be key, and for me, it's mental fatigue. I struggle with it in an hour race on an easy track like a Brands or a Donington at the Nords, where you are just absolute big slide there by Nico Kumpu, bleeding out the time. Hopefully that doesn't impede his exit going on to his next lap. He's also got Tobias Sontag right up behind him, so the BMW looking a bit racy, but the mental fatigue these guys are going to sort of feel, being at such a high level of concentration for the full 90 minutes, that's going to be tough for these.
Yeah, sorry, these are actually full lap times. So Dalton, there we go. John Dalton at 8:11.375, 2 seconds quicker than Boardman, Sontag and Dorbert and Kumpu. Kumpu a little bit off there, 5 seconds off the pace on a qualifying lap. I know it's his first one, and he'll get at least 1 or maybe 2 more goes at it, depending on which loop. Obviously, they're going to use the GP loop for warm up, but yeah, not great for Nico Kumpu if he wants to start taking a pole position to look towards challenging Badowski, is it really here?
No, we know he's got the pace. I think maybe just first lap, getting used to the car, getting that confidence, just getting warmed up on the circuit, because this is a big confidence track. Maybe made a few mistakes. We saw the one into sort of the final section and the final corners there. He's currently circulating for a second lap, hoping to learn from those mistakes and just build up that rhythm, because rhythm is going to be absolutely key for these guys. As we're on board with Rafa, who are very illuminous livery. One of our one-off drivers hasn't been racing this season, he's usually a staple to the Monday gang, which they call themselves here at RCI, but a very luminous green livery is coming through the GP section into the chicane and about to embark on the Nordschleife. He's actually running behind Nico Kumpu, so I knew in the practice server Rafael was a couple of seconds behind Kumpu here. Oh, he's actually going around for another lap, apologies. I was thinking he might be able to follow Kumpu and try to gain a little bit of extra pace that way. He's probably, we're used to seeing Rafael Hill up competing for the wins. This is the first race he's had this season, so he's probably just settling himself in.
Yeah, like you say, and these guys, these guys who are coming for this single event will be very aware that there is a championship fight going on here. There will be some, battles that they don't want to get in the way of. If you've got a Nico Kumpu, a John Dalton, and everyone else battling up there up towards Badowski and Plate and Honzler battling at the top, is John really going to want to stick a nose in somewhere? We'll have to think about that, because these guys respect each other, and they, no one's going to want to ruin a championship battle, especially as a solo single one-off entry. As much as I'm sure all these guys will be gunning to, Hull and Dalton to be gunning up as high as possible, they aren't going to want to get in the way of a championship fight here, because these guys are friends off screen. They do have, it's a very, very good community relationship everyone has here, and they aren't going to want to be the one who made that mistake.
Yeah, very well put there, Callum. And I half agree and half not. With the racers at the end of the day, they might not want to get involved with the championship, but they definitely want to do what's best for them. And that I definitely feel like there will be the occasional cheeky move as we do see, but it's a really, really good point as how involved these one-off racers want to be. As we ride on board with our current pole sitter by 1.7 seconds, John Dalton. I'm going to start an early petition, as he has betrayed the comms team, Callum, to actually call him Judas for the remainder of the race. But looking at our delta, he's currently 2.5 seconds up. It looks like John Dalton is here to make a statement. I mean, off the back of his recent esports form, jumping in on the RCI team, especially in the 6-hour series. Looks like he's here to make a statement today, going, I might comms over you guys every Monday, but just let you know, I'm here to play when I'm ready to go.
He's not going to do an 8-minute 9. Surely not in qualifying. 2 seconds up already. This is going to be absolutely incredible if he lands it. As much as, yes, he has betrayed you, and I do agree, maybe Judas Dalton should be his new name within the community. That would be amazing if he lands an 8-9 on this track. I mean, I was looking through I haven't been commentating in a while, so I was looking through the chat previously that these guys have to sort of discuss pre-race stuff, and people were talking about 8.13s, 8.11s being impressive, which when Dalton put a low 11 in at the start, I thought, here we go. But to put an 8.09 in, no one was talking about that earlier. So maybe a little bit of gamesmanship. Maybe he was hiding something, a little bit of pace he didn't want to show on the practice server. But I don't know. Maybe this is just how quick he is. Overcast right now, but obviously track is at optimum. 19 degrees for both the air and track temperature, and not a lot of wind. So all the best conditions here for Dalton to put in something great. He just has to hold it on in this back half of the lap.
Yeah, 2.5 seconds up, and he's barely even halfway around the circuit, so plenty more to gain. I know the sub 8:10 mark that's a mighty pace, and would be immensely impressive by John Dalton here as Nicole Fox jumps up to P2 in the standings. Nicole Fox has come to play again in that Porsche, so there are some people who have got buckets loads of pace here. John may be the quickest on track now, but he needs to make sure he absolutely nails this lap, and the further laps, as it looks like we've got a number of competitive people. Nicole Fox in the box, ready to pit and probably put on a fresh set of boots. She will be able to get an out lap and probably another 2 laps in, as this is such a long lap. You will have people doing the sort of the GP loop using 2 seconds-ish, getting around the 8-minute lap, so she will be able to get 2 more extra laps out of this. I've just had another word in my ear. John Dalton 3.5 seconds up on this section as he goes round the carousel and into the back section of this lap, this tight, twisty area. You see many crash on YouTube, which is why one of them is duly named YouTube corner, but he is absolutely on it right now. It just seems like everything's going right for him. It's planted. It's just pure confidence from this man right now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he's set a good banker, which is part of sim racing qualifying. As he runs wide there onto the gravel there, it's invalidated. Stewie's just come in our ears and told us that invalidated his lap time. So, and that's the Nordschleife for you. You can put in a lap that's 2-3 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. You overstep on one singular corner around here, and it invalidates your lap time, and that is it. So John will have time to go again, and 13 minutes left of the session. He will get at least one out lap and probably 2 flyers if he wants it. Some people, interestingly, only going for the 1 flyer and just stopping straight away. I thought that was quite an interesting comment of some people here. You saw Nico Kumpu go for 2 laps in a row. Some people going for just 1 lap as we cut to Togris in the number 15 Porsche coming through the last couple of corners up through, I think, Brunchen and up by Glansgarden and coming down towards that final section leading up to the Dottinger hole, the long straight here at the Nordschleife. But yeah, interesting that some people only doing the 1 lap, whereas some people think there's enough in the tyres to go for 2.
I think that is very interesting, and personally, I think that is the wrong call. The 1 lap from the GP circuit, you do get a clear run off the final corner of the GP circuit and onto the back straight. But coming from sort of the Dottinger Ho section and through Horse Rain, you have got a better exit out of that, and therefore will be able to carry more pace down that straight. Now, granted, it might not be enough, but I think that's probably up to about a second you can instantly gain on your lap time coming into turn 1. It's a massive difference. I mean, for some of these guys looking at around Emo Plata, that gain him an instant position. Nico Kumpu would jump up to 6th, all from just taking that doing the 2 laps out. It's fairly interesting strategy for the people that aren't going for that, Callum. And I think one interesting strategy we saw at the start of the lap was Mike Redford just going directly for the long lap round. Maybe just wanted to get himself completely out of trouble and set himself into a bit of space before going and circulating, which, to be fair, I'd probably do the same. The last thing I want is to see a car in my rearview mirrors or in front of me. I'm just full focus on the road ahead of me if I'm racing on this today.
And it gets you in that flow state. The Nürburgring is a very flowy circuit. It gets you sort of mentally prepared for that fast lap as we see Tigris coming down here into the final chicane up onto the GP loop. A good point by Stewie also made that you can also gain a lot of time because your tyres aren't up to temp if you only do the GP loop. We'll see if this is an improvement from 10th place. Number goes 3rd here, 1.3 off Dalton on pole. So as we cut down to Lundqvist as well, 10 seconds off on his previous lap. That might have been some kind of error or mistake made. We'll see what happens here. Currently in P14, comes over the line, P12. So a good gain there, to be fair. Another 2 to 3 second gain sort of on the previous lap here as we cut again to Lindgren, currently on the loop, about to come through Gankelpoff onto the Dottinger. These German names are ruining me, but he's coming onto the Dottinger straight now. But yeah, your tyres won't be up to temp if you just do a GP lap. So that might explain something about how John was able to gain so much time, especially in that by the middle of the lap. He will have done the first half of his first lap with his tyres not up to temp.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to just quickly talk about, Callum, as we ride on board with Lindgren going down the Dottinger Ho, is not qualifying. I know it sounds counterproductive, but a lot of these people, and I do think we will have a couple in the race today, go, actually, don't want to do qualifying, want to sit at the back. I mean, Nordschleife, we don't want to see it, but it is prone to having a little bit of carnage on lap 1. It gets very, very tight into turn 1, as we see with the Nürburgring and the Nordschleife. So there may be a few people here that actually opt to not pit, start at the back, maybe even start in the pit lane here today and go, I want to just keep out of trouble, run my race. Again, sorry to just cut across my point, but Tobias Sontag jumping to the top of the field, immediately putting a set of boots on and going out again. He's made a statement there with the BMW. I mean, we were theorizing the Porsches could be the quickest car on track there, but Tobias Sontag, who we know across the season has had immense pace, maybe not the luck in this season that he should have, making a statement there and putting a BMW onto the top step. Currently 7 tenths ahead of John Dalton. So John Dalton now needs that magical lap we know he's capable of. But going back to my point, Callum, a lot of people I think could actually start in the pit lane here just to avoid any issues that you may foresee in lap one, and just head down, all about survival, and banking on other people crashing is probably what's going through people's minds right now.
Yeah, as you said, self-preservation is the number one job here at the Nordschleife. To finish first you have to finish. What will be interesting here is if Sontag goes for a full outlap. He did have the time when he left the pit lane if he wanted to go for one full outlap, or he might just do the GP loop. Obviously, he'd gain, as we said, more tyre temperature as Stewie's cutting to him here. I think that's still on the GP loop from my memory coming through the hairpin at the bottom. Yep, so we'll see here if he goes for a full outlap. I believe he has time. I believe he left the pit lane with 9 minutes left. So, yeah, I think he did, as I think Stewie just confirmed it there in my ear. So, will he go right or will he go left here? He's going right, so he's not choosing to do the full outlap to get the tyre temp and that better run out of this onto this last straight. So he starts his final lap of qualifying. Quite an interesting choice there. I mean, don't want to bin it on your outlap, maybe? You know, there's a lot of people here that will be invalidating lap times or have issues on their outlap, which might cause them. As we cut to Hull there in the Porsche, as we cut back on a replay here, going up through Fluplatz here and down towards the hairpin, and it just breaks a bit deep there, but carries the minimum speed through and just runs out wide on the exit and gets Nürburgring curbed here, going down towards Foxholt. That will be it. That will be qualifying. No, not qualifying over. Sorry, I forget they have that GP loop that they can cut in. As Badowski here, last lap, an 8:15.607. So he's coming out onto the Dottinger straight here. Let's see what Badowski can do, if he can mess it up the top with Dalton and Sontag. I'd be surprised if he was far off that there.
Yeah, obviously Marco Badowski, championship leader, and really with one hand on that trophy for the season. In the Audi today, I've had words that the Audi is pretty loose and a bit of a death trap here at the Nordschleife, so he's definitely been holding it together. He's currently up on his lap as he comes out of the Dottinger through this last section. He's going to be fully flat here, then starts his braking down 2-3 gears, just hooking that apex, a little bit of curb as he gets back on the power as early as he can, hold the back end if it goes squirrely, and just full throttle. He will get another lap if he's got the fuel in, but as he crosses the line, this should be a massive improvement for him, and he jumps up to P6, not the P1 which we're used to seeing him in the season, but still only 2 seconds off the lead. And having that extra run going through the main circuit, I can already tell you that after turn 1 he is already 1.2 seconds up on his previous lap. That is the difference you can get by doing that full loop and doing the 2 fast laps. So it's definitely beneficial. Tobias Sontag has lost that opportunity. He has actually come back in the box and then come back out, so he may have had a mistake. He's still got time to go do still got time to do a GP loop and get back on the circuit. As we ride on board with John Dalton, currently up as he's coming through the final section. This is the iconic YouTube corner. He is 2.2 seconds up on his lap times. He's coming through. He's sort of this I call it the fast twisty section. I'm not going to try and pronounce all the German pronunciations. I don't want to be butchering those, Callum. But once again, he's on pace. Just needs to hold it together.
Yeah, I mean, as we cut also to the nose cam of Dalton there, coming through, as you said, I'm not going to pronounce them anymore. I've given them a good go, but I think it is just, we're going to have to refer to them as how far away from the Dottinger they are. But another thing that I thought of while you were just mentioning that, and it's in reference to Sontag, that's why do GP loop and don't commit to the full out lap. Because if you have a problem on your fast lap, sort of early on, sort of at least before Fluplatz or Arenberg, or that first big sector of the lap, you can go for another if you've done the GP loop out lap. But obviously, if Sontag had committed within the last few seconds of qualifying, as we see Dalton running out onto the last dotting a straight. He did have to lift, I'm being told, there on off the throttle coming through that final corner. So we'll see if that's affected this time. Might still be an improvement though. I don't have the relatives on my screen. I'm sure you do, Alan, but see if he manages an improvement at all on his previous best time. Needs 7.5 tenths of a second to put it back on pole for the RCI commentary team. I'm going to say that's his team name. Not nearly on pace. It's definitely for the RCI commentary team. He's doing it all for us. Sontag again gets to go again. So he must have messed up somewhere early in the lap as Dalton comes through out of the final corner now. Callum up to the line.
I think you're going to get your wish here with the 209s, and it is a 209. That would have been rapid. An 809.6 for John Dalton, taking pole and straight into the box. He didn't have fuel to go out for another lap, so that's him done. Tobias Sontag out on the racetrack, ready to compete. We've also got Nicole Fox, who we know has got a bucket load of pace on the racetrack, and Honsel, so still all to play for, but John Dalton 809 in like an outrageous amount of pace, probably had an 808 in him, as we know, we've seen on his Delta as well. I mean, I know I'm calling him Judas for the day, but that's impressive. I can't knock it.
That is crazy fast. A second quicker than Sontag, so he's jumped, well, 1.7 seconds that lap, pretty much near it, makes no difference. Sontag, again, won't have that benefit. He will have to do the GP loop. He won't have that benefit of warming the tyres up properly. But even in our sort of commentary chat here, everyone very, very, very impressed by the speed of John Dalton here. As we cut to, I like that livery. That is a nice looking BMW livery of Richard Withall here in the 957 car, currently sitting in 18th place, 10 seconds off the pole time, which might sound alarming if you're used to normal circuit racing. You know, you want to be within a second, 2 seconds of the pole time. But obviously, around the Nürburgring, it's just such a long lap that it is quite common to see people 5, 6, 7 seconds off the pace of a pole sitter. And like we've said plenty of times, those people can win this race. It isn't, you know, just purely about one lap outright speed. It's Dalton is going for another lap, so he thinks he can go better. We think he can here as well. Again, he will only have that GP loop to warm these tyres up. But it's not just, oh, commentator's curse, Callum. Commentator's curse here.
Well, Callum, welcome back to the comms box. You've just had your first commentator's curse since coming back to RCI after a little bit of a hiatus. Richard Withall just coming into that fast, twisty section, just losing it a little bit there. And, you know, the Nordschleife giveth and the Nordschleife do taketh, sadly, as claimed Richard Withall in this instance, as we ride on board, or previously with Marco Badowski, now back on board with Tobias Sontag, who is up on his lap, so there is still pace in that BMW, and he's going to be hunting John Dalton down. Obviously, he's just coming off the GP circuit. Don't worry, that doesn't mean we've got 44 seconds left of qualifying. We've got an 8-minute lap ahead of us, so there's still plenty of time and plenty of lap for him to go through. I'm going to take this quick opportunity, Callum, to actually mention our partners here at RCI, as we sort of, it looks like not a lot of people coming across the line, so we're going to be waiting a little bit. So AK Esports, a top provider of premium esports services and equipment, from server support, event management, and coaching, and even hardware. AK offers everything you need to elevate your sim experience. So a massive love to AK Esports here from RCI. Moser Racing, who need no introduction, a leading provider in high quality sim racing gear. If you are looking to just getting into sim racing and looking at sort of your first setup, your first wheels, or looking at getting your next upgrade to really boost that driving experience and the feel you get through that wheel, Moser absolutely have you covered. Coach Dave Delta, we welcome back Coach Dave Delta here to RCI, where finding a lap time has never been easier, providing the highest quality setups, data analysis, and optimal racing lines on multiple sim racing platforms, including ACC, iRacing, LMU, and even GT7 now. If you're seeking that extra 10th, I know I definitely would be, or that extra second, Coach Delta has your back. And Green Mountain Gaming, a new partner here to RCI. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of them, but where you can buy games and keys for games, the top gaming titles, at literally a fraction of the cost. From the newest sim on the market, AC Evo, which recently released, some absolute masterpieces in gaming like Red Dead Redemption 2, which I think is currently sitting on the website for £16, which is outrageous, and that's the ultimate version of the game. You will quite literally struggle to find a price that's get beaten by Green Man Gaming. And of course, a massive shout out to Motorsport UK, who are recommending RCI as a recommended. So a lot of love that we get from there. If you are sort of interested in any of our partners or just want to have a little nose, all the links to those are in the description as we ride on board with Nicole Fox, who is up on her lap time, coming into sort of the final section of the lap. She's looking to seek an improvement on that P, hopefully chase down Sontag, even chase down John Dalton, but she is absolutely rapid. A brilliant performance thus far here, Callum, by Nicole Fox.
Yeah, great performance. I love this helmet cam here. Is it just that Porsche just likes to step out a little bit? You can see the corrections having to do on the steering wheel as she comes up through YouTube corner. I believe this is from memory, but yeah, just so many sort of, you know, oversteer corrections having to be done. So many little tiny little corrections because of that rear engine sort of swing that the Porsche has. But managing a good lap time so far. 2.4 seconds off the pace. I did want to touch on one thing quickly, which is, you know, reminded me through the Coach Dave Delta is, and the MS UK sponsorships we have here at RCI with our partnerships, as Hansel stopped over the line, puts it third place, drops Nicole Fox back down, 0.3 of a second between them. So Nicole's got a bit of time to find here as she comes up towards the end of her lap. But the link between sim racing and real life racing is massive. You know, to have that support from MS UK is huge. You know, I started personally in sort of sim racing and sim racing setup, and now outside of this, I work on real life race cars in real life race car setup. You know, and it is a massive overlap. You know, the things you do here on ACC are the things you would do to a GT car in real life. You know, the pressures you're looking at are the same. The setup adjustments you're looking to make will be the same. It's the same process of, you know, going out, feeling the difference between, you know, different tire pressures or different suspension settings. So it is really nice to see, having, you know, spent a year or two doing actual race car setup, to come back and see sponsors that, you know, show that similarity between real racing and sim racing here as Nicole comes up to the end of her lap.
Yeah, Nicole Fox just sort of coming into the end of her lap, massively up on her time. She just needs to pick this final section as she goes down 2-3 gears. This is the apex there. That might lose her a little bit of time as she gets bang on the throttle very squirrely there from the Porsche, because you know that rear end is very heavy. I think she's lost roughly about 0.4, Stewie's telling me there, but still crosses the line, bags the P3. A wonderful qualifying performance there. You lost around 0.4, so she still would have got the P3 off the back of that lap, but that is a wonderful performance there by Nicole Fox. One of the highest qualifying positions I think we've seen from her in a long time. Just as we go on board with Sontag coming through this final section after the carousel, I'm going to hop over to our YouTube and Twitch stats. So anyone that is watching on YouTube and Twitch, hello. Please drop a shout out to any racer you're watching today, or if anyone you want to see win. Just letting you know, if it's for John Dalton, we are considering Judas today, so we won't read those ones out.
Oh, sorry, Sontag there. Sorry to interrupt. Sontag just lost it on his lap there. He had a massive oversteer moment. That's going to have lost him some time as Stewie cuts to a replay of that. Sorry to interrupt you there, Callum. But yeah, Sontag just, I think, clipping the curb on the inside, and it just ran him out wide onto that bit of gravel on the outside. And yeah, big oversteer moment there, and not what he would have wanted at all.
No, thank you for cutting over and spotting that, Callum. Yes, it gutting. He must have been pushing that car to the absolute limit. It looks like John Dalton also had a mistake there on the final laps. Everyone trying to eke every ounce of pace that we have here. Dewey just telling me John was 1 second up before he lost that, so he would have had the 808s that we theorized. Nico Kumpu crossing the line. Is he going to seek an improvement on his lap? He jumps up to P5. That's massive for his championship charge. If he if he gets up to that P1, that's what he needs, as well as fastest lap, but not the pole points. So now he needs, I believe, and I will get corrected, he will need fastest lap and the win to secure the championship here as we ride on board with Rudy Filmolto, who's coming through the final section. I was chatting to Rudy in a call after this. He is not enjoying the Nordschleife today, but it's good to see him still out there circulating, doing laps and putting it in, improving with every single lap time. Jumping into the YouTube chat quick, John Dalton's just said, sorry, Judas Dalton has just jumped in saying that he definitely had the 828 on the cards as Rudy Filmalter makes a mistake on that second carousel. That means our last car circulating is Vlad Will, who is currently up on his lap time by a pretty hefty margin. He's looking to jump up the field. We know he's got the pace. He's had some exceptional pace in the races he has been in. He joined the season in Kota, put it straight onto pole position and was leading all the way until Joe Dorber who actually jumped ahead of him in the pit. So we know he's got the pace and clearly proving it here today as he puts full throttle down for the Dottinger Ho. Now he's just sitting there making sure he absolutely nails those gear shifts, because any mistaken input here and you're just going to be bleeding time that's down this straight. It's such a long straight. You borderline could get a yawn and a cup of tea, right? But closing in, the final man to cross the line, Callum.
Yeah, final man to cross the line. So statistically has the highest chance of putting in the best lap time. I'm going to put pressure on Vlad there as he comes through the kink towards the end of his lap. Again, high pressure situation here as he breaks down through the gears, through fourth, through third, into second, cutting quite a lot of that inside curb on that first right-hander there, coming to the last little corner as he comes up to the line. But this will be our last car to decide the grid here for the Nürburgring, for the full Nordschleife, and he puts it fifth, ahead of Nico Kumpu. So big championship implications of Nico Kumpu in sixth place and Badowski down in ninth. But this is very much the race not to focus on any qualifying performance at all. This is a race of attrition. So we'll see what happens here as I'll let you read out the qualifying standings.
Yep, as we've already said, John Dalton in pole, 809.6, a performance and a half from someone who is usually in the combox with us. We thought Porsches would dominate, but Tobias Sontag hot on his heels and had bucket loads of pace, but just made his mistake on that final lap, followed by Nicole Fox, Honzel, Vlad Will, Nico Kumpu, Boardman, Victor Tigris, a brilliant performance from him. Badowski, worst qualifying performance of the season, but still puts in P9 and still with championship winning potential there. He just needs points on the board to secure that win. Top 10 closed out by Christian Lindgren. It's all to play for now, as they're going to be gearing up for the race now, Callum, where it shifts. We're not going to be absolutely gunning for it, attacking every single corner now. Now it shifts into, I need to survive these 12 laps on the Nordschleife.
Yeah, and it is probably the hardest place to survive 12 laps on, as we get confirmation of the championship standings up on screen. Badowski up in first place, Nico Kumpu down in second, Mo Plate in third place, on level on points with Marcus Honzel in fourth, Tom Shipston in fifth, and Manzo there from Portugal in the Audi in sixth. Oliver Curtin in seventh, Andy Boardman down in eighth place, Lindegren in ninth, and Joe Dorber rounds out the top 10 with 105 points in seventh.
Yeah, Callum, and we have a lot of people joining in this season, so we're going to have quite a few standings to read out. Peter Lundqvist on 103, Lee Armstrong with 98 points, and Nicholas Nordquist on 82, trailed by 1 point by Tobias Sontag, who's, if he holds onto that P2, is going to be jumping up the field quite massively. Mike Redford and Phil Roberts, a battle to watch on the racetrack, as they are currently tied for 71 points. Whoever leads out of those two at the end of this race will be the best off in that position. Chris Lippert and Vlad Will trailing behind them, and Les Stevenson on 50, followed by Peter Varga in P.
Yeah, Richard Withall there in P21, who I'm going to apologise again to, on 38 points for that commentator's curse in qualifying. Thibaut Roskam in 22nd, Artez in 23rd, Nicole Fox down in 24th, Phil Malta in 25th, Kurz in 26th, Tedders in 27th, Tigris in 28th, Kevin Boss in 29th, and Martin Foster rounding out the top 30 with 18 points on the board.
Scott Lawson, who I believe isn't racing today, currently sitting on 12 points in one. Keith Withall, who I haven't seen on the racetrack today, in P9, nor have I seen Matthias Byron, who's currently sitting 3 with 0 points. Victor Nordquist, one of the other Sim Brothers racing cars, currently on 0 points. And then we have a cluster of our one race joinees: Ted Edwards, Raphael Hill, John Dalton, Carlos Calatiad, and Gershty Speed. A few of them who are RCI staff members, but they're all wanting to tackle the Nordschleife. And as we've seen, put a spanner in the works with John Dalton getting pole. Everyone else on the screen, I believe, has signed out and take any further part in this.
Yeah, as we just scroll through to the rest of the participants who signed out. So not here today, any of these guys, but I believe a grid of 38 cars to take on the Nordschleife. As we said, it is going to be a big survival game here. No one's going to be out here doing qualifying laps every lap for 12 laps straight. I'm sure some of them are going to try. I know I mentioned before that some of these people aren't going to want to get in the ways of championship battles. John didn't seem to care, did he? Talking straight on P1, taking those championship points for putting the car on pole position. So valuable points away there from Nico Kumpu to take his chances of taking this championship further and further away from him. I reckon John's going to be gunning for this now. He's going to be hyped. I know he said in the chat, as we said, he bottled it and he was a bit frustrated. He had an 808 on the cards there if he could get the lap together. So he's clearly pumped and ready for the race. And I'm sure everyone else in the server is going to be getting themselves ready, making sure they've got the setup supplied, making sure the fuel's been put in. You do not want to make that mistake here. As we said, you cannot pit on lap 1 and get rid of your mandatory stop. So it must be within the 57-minute window during the race, as it has been on every other round. But obviously that 90-minute race here means that if you have a problem on lap 1, you've got to tough it out, or you've got to make a decision to box twice.
Yeah, and well, welcome to Callum's hypothetical. Something that happens in which I predict everything wildly incorrectly. But Callum, if you were in this race, 90-minute race, 57-minute pit window, you as a man who is heavily involved in races, like sort of motorsport outside of this, what would you be telling your team? What would you be doing if you were in the race car? What would be the strategy that you'd play out today?
I mean, in my mind, it's down the middle. You take tyres halfway, split this down the middle, you give yourself a very even race car. The fuel's going to burn off down at the end. You're going to have a nicer car at the end of the race. I think I'd be splitting it down the middle. I'd be taking tyres, and yeah, just trying to stay out of trouble on lap 1. If you lose a place, 2 places, doesn't matter. It's the Nürburgring. You can gain that time very, very quickly through having a good strategy. Yeah, maybe you'd think about offsetting it once or twice if you see, your rival pit the lap earlier before you. Yeah, maybe offset it. Try and get some clear air. But yeah, I'd be splitting it down the middle if I were these guys as we go to mid walk.
Yeah, and Stewie doing a wonderful job behind the cameras as we've just seen John Dalton at the Polsters car, and we've got the two Armenia Arkin cars of Tobias Sontag and Onzel here on the right hand side. Nicole Fox, I mean, I always respect a pink livery. So that's going to be probably my choice for the favourite livery of today. So Nicole Fox there representing the pink Porsche as we trundle back down the field. I think next car is Vlad Will who also drives for Armenia Arkin Sports but doesn't have the livery on. And then we have Nico Kumpu, who needs that win, needs that fastest lap. It's looking a little bit out of reach for him currently, but anything is possible on the Nordschleife. He is currently on your left. Andy Boardman, who hopped in mid-season and hasn't had the best of luck. I mean, Kota definitely was probably one he'd want to forget about, but he is currently starting in 7 there on the right-hand side. Then we've got Vossi Tigris on the left in the Porsche. Then we finally see something that isn't a Porsche BMW. Our championship leader, the man with one hand on his trophy, Marco Badowski, with Christian Lindgren on the left-hand side. Then Joe Dorber, the only man other than Marco Badowski to win a race this season. He's sitting in P11 with that black and gold BMW that you see on your right-hand side, with Emo Plata on the left. He's in a championship fight with Honzel, who's also up the road, so he's got a bit of a mammoth task here in order to sort of hold on to that P3 We've already commented on Raphael Hill's livery in the luminous green there, and on the left-hand side, Lily Armstrong, the fastest hands in the West. We say it every time, but the only controller player we have in the race. Yao Manso there, currently in P15. I believe that's Richard in our YouTube chat, giving a shout out to him and wanting him to do well. We just went past Carlos Calatiad on the left-hand side, and then Mike Redford, who's in that championship fight with Phil Roberts quite far up the field in comparison. Mike Redford on the left, Mike Redford on the right, Peter Lundqvist on the left there. Christian Klippert is now our next car on the right-hand side with Richard Whittle, who Callum has sadly already commentated Curse today. There's a good host of liveries up and down the field, Callum. As this is your first race this season, which one really jumps out to you as a favourite? I think this one that we're just passing on the right-hand side, the throwback to the orange arrows, that's got a small place in my heart there from football.
Yeah, and having sort of grown up in motorsport around sort of the early 2000s, like that is a special livery. I do really like the plainness of the Whittle car. I like the purple stripes, so I think that's sort of up there for me. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have seen the Porsche, a Mercedes, and BMW cars go round in person. I don't think I've seen an Audi yet on real life racetracks, and I mean the M4 is just so mean in person. I've seen one in all carbon, and it just looks amazing in person. So anything sort of BMW M4 is probably the car for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Fair enough. Well, I've been riding the Audi train all season. I thought I mean, it's not a very picked car this season. I remember from lap 1 when we were at the Nürburgring previously. Obviously, we're doing 2 visits here, the bookend either side here at the Nürburgring. I was Team Audi all the way, and Badowski has anti or opposite. Commentators cursed me with that one, as he's absolutely dominated this season as everyone is coming down for what isn't a full lap. We don't want to be waiting 15 minutes for people to come round, so this is a short formation lap as they come off the back of the Dottinger Hoe. John Dalton leads. Tobias Sontag on the right hand side got sort of the beneficial line, as we know that turn 1 leads to the right hand side, but this is I mean, I'm nervous and I'm not even in the car. My heart rate's definitely rose a little bit, as we know what the Nordschleife can deliver as they come onto the straight, ready to start this race. They're all going to be going around the, I don't remember, I believe it's 50 kilometers or 70 kilometers an hour mark as we wait for the green light. John Dalton on your right, Sontag on your left. We're waiting for it to go green. It looks like John Dalton has a slightly better position as they all line up into, and I believe that is green now. John Dalton with a brilliant getaway. It looks like Nicole Fox has a lovely getaway in the background as well. This could be a Porsche leading into turn 1. John Dalton covering off Nicole Fox late on the brakes there, but it looks like Tobias Sontag go to the right, then tightly over to the left. A little bit of contact there from the people fighting in P2. It looks all clean. A little bit of a bust stop there onto the turn 2 corner as everyone's sort of like breaking up. That's Raphael Schull there onto the grass. A little bit of a shoulder check, I believe, by Calatiad, but it's looking rather clean so far as we go through the GP circuit. Everyone's slowly starting to form sort of line of stern. A couple of people side by side coming in and down to the hairpin. I think that's the Varga there side by side with one of the red BMWs into sort of the Dunlop curb, and it's John Dalton, Tobias Sontag, Nicole Fox, and Nico Kumpu has made a few spots on the opening set of corners. So the ideal start that's needed by Nico Kumpu, who is still mathematically in for a chance of winning this championship.
Yeah, and that is the start John would have wanted. You know, hold it as late as possible, and you know, just get the traction down into T1. Really focus on sort of cutting across at the front of the field in T1 as we see more cars coming up, heading up towards the Schumacher S. And yeah, John Dalton, that is the perfect getaway as we come up towards the Nordschleife proper. Through the chicane, cars will be turning left for the very first time. Nobody turn right here, turn left please. Yep, great, all turning left onto the proper full Nordschleife circuit. Hard to overtake around this circuit. Very hard to overtake. Very easy to overtake if someone in front of you makes a mistake, but very hard to overtake. As I think we see Nico Kumpu. Is that in 4th place now? Nico Kumpu, I believe, I saw flashing through there. Rich Whittle slow off onto the loop. coming down, and they'll be going down up towards the flue patch for the first time in a second. But yeah, perfect start for John.
Perfect start for John, a brilliant start for Nico Kumpu, and a clean start for what looks like the majority, if not all, the field. Everyone coming into the Nordschleife. I haven't seen any yellow flags, but I did see a little bit of damage on Olivier Curtin's car. And we have a drive-through from Olivier Curtin as well. I'm not sure how you get a drive-through on lap 1, whether it was out of place or something's happened. It was for the start. Stewie just telling me it's out of place at the start. Looks like he's had a bit of a damage to the front end of his car as well, so an unfortunate start for Olivier Curtin, who I believe is currently P7 in the championship with 127 points. Could have jumped Manso if he had a far better result there, so that's a little bit hard for his championship fight. Most likely going to be jumped by Boardman and Lindgren at the end of the race, unless they have similar incidents. We're on board with Nicole Fox, who is looking hungry, only 5 tenths behind Tobias Sontag. Absolutely fired up and ready to go, chasing him into Foxhole.
Yeah, Nicole Fox really on one coming down as we see a train of Porsches driving down through Foxhole, up towards in through the compression down here. But yeah, big point here to make is Nico Kumpu has made a great start making it places, and Badowski there holding station in 11th as we see some rear diffuser damage there on Royne's car with Huell following him, so maybe a little bit of argy-bargy, you know, not quite judging brake and ends properly, these guys yet, as I believe we're going to cut to a replay potentially of what's happened here. Has Huell gone into the back of him, coming in? Oh, yeah, a little tag there from Huell. Huell slowing down there, not making any advantage, not wanting to look like he's pushed a pass. I'm sure the stewards might take a quick, brief look at that, but I imagine that will be no action necessary. He's sort of self-policed that, as we see the two Audis coming through together of Badowski and Manzo. Maybe they can work together here as we see some dust being kicked up in front of Badowski, I think by Boardman there. Badowski looking down the inside of Boardman. So hard to pass on this GP loop though. You have to sort of pressure somebody offline, you know, sort of push away. As I think Speed's had an incident here. Yeah, you can see cracked windshield already. I'm not sure if there's a little bit of, yeah, the mirror is completely disconnected. Ignore the mirror, I'm being told in my ear, but just sort of understeers off. But he already had damage before that then, so I think that's crashing due to damage already incurred earlier in the race. So not completely clean, as we see Badowski still on the back of Boardman.
Yeah, very unfortunate there by Gersti. Like we said, with a 57-minute pit window, he really either has to wait this out for 2 laps or take 2 pit stops here, as Christian Lindgren getting heavily pressured here by Tigris, running up the hill and into what is known as Bravery corner. If he makes a move out there, he would be, well, brave, hence the name, as we come back up the hill. And this corner is almost a light dab on the brakes, down a gear and just throw it in, as we see a lot of people coming with Badowski leading that train, who has got past Andy Boardman at some point, and it looks like Dorber's got past Manso as well there. So there is passing happening in these early sections, and whether that's, you know, from a clean move or just waiting for the other drivers to make a mistake, we'll find out if we get a replay. But like, there may even be a tad bit of damage on Boardman's car, or is that just delivery? Either way, it's looking fairly spicy here, and I think that's Gerst who's had to RT or leave as well already. So an incident on lap 1 for Gersti has sadly made it our first retirement.
I'm going to probably get proved wrong by a replay here, but I think that would have been a poor exit, as we see, I think that's Huell there going side by side, banging doors in the Porsche. But yeah, I think that would have been an exit thing out of the tight twisty section before coming all the way up the hill. You know, you've got a long run, as we see a car off onto the grass there and into the wall. Not quite sure on what that is. Nordquist there, I think that was, running completely sideways over the grass after coming through the compression. Ooh, brave decision there to take that cut, and will take some damage from that. But yeah, he knew he wasn't going to make the corner there, and the best chance of him surviving was to cut that. But yeah, all about exits onto the big straight coming up the hill there. So I imagine that's where Boardman was caught by Badowski.
Yeah, and the Porsche obviously able to apply that power with the heavy rear end so much better, as we're riding on board with the 2 Sim Brothers cars fighting with Raphael Heel. Very unfortunate for Nordquist. I mean, he was almost taking out his teammate. That's the last thing you want to do with sort of the Sim Brothers racing cars, racing Linus Stern in there, but well avoided. And the nature and the brutality of the bumps as we're on board with a replay looking at Joe Dorber. A little bit of contact there with Badowski, and then a further bit of contact with Manso. So Badowski starting the race with a heavy bit of rear and side damage and some front end damage for Joe Dorber as well, as you ride on board with your favourite livery, Richard Whittle, who's chasing down Peter Varga. A little bit of a BMW train here. Peter Varga, he's had the damage from Joe Dorber's rear end, so he might be losing out a little bit, and he goes wide on the second carousel. Absolutely brutal there, and it's so easy to do, especially in that second carousel. You just slip out, and that's Carlos Calatiad, who's also run a bit wide and hit the barrier and had to RTG. That's going to be a mountain of damage there. Most likely, and is that Les Stevenson, who's also just collided into Calatiad, and we've had to have some avoiding, and another crash from a BMW. These are not the things you want to see, but again, just showing the nature and the brutality of this Nordschleife circuit. That's so unfortunate from Calatiad going wide, and then Les Stevenson colliding into him. It looks like two people's there. One race, I believe, has ended with Calatiad coming into the pits, but not the start that Les Stevenson wants either.
And I think a point to make here, Boardman's been caught by Dorber there, as we see another one. Phil Malta in the 975 car, probably going to have to pull off a maker atomic. Boardman's in. So Boardman is into the pits. That front end damage, yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah. He's got front end damage, so he's come in to fix that. So this will not, as far as we're aware, will not count as part of his mandatory pit stop here. It's Badowski going side by side with Plate in the Mercedes there, coming down onto, but I think Plate will just cut in front and take that corner as there. Oh no, a little bit wide, put off by the car on the inside. And that is one of the big things about the Nürburgring. You've really got to fill the mirrors of the car in front of you, as Badowski's doing now. Lights on and fill those mirrors. That's how you're going to pressure somebody into a mistake ahead of you, and that is the best way to pass it. Badowski thought about it down the inside there if the space was going to open up, but it didn't. Very well defended, sort of very hard to make a move down there unless you are already fully alongside coming to the hairpin. Up the hill now, up towards the Schumacher S, and Badowski, there's no way of getting past here. You've just sort of got to really follow through as we come down into heavy braking for the left-hander. Down a few gears here and following through up until, you know, good chance at the chicane there to make a move potentially after that straight.
Yes, we come on board with Martin Foster, I believe has been collided by one of the BMWs there. Is that Keith Whittle maybe? Or has also been passing Rudy Phil Malta, who was having an issue over the curb there. This is getting a little bit dicey. I think the Nordschleife is really showing its characteristics. You are offline at all, you hit a curb in a wrong way, and you are going to be punished. I believe we're on board with Tobias Sontag here. A little bit of contact that we noted there between Sontag and Nicole Fox coming through that turn 2 section, but thankfully no major incident there. On board with Nicholas Nordquist, who hasn't boxed, staying out, and is being chased by Phil Roberts in the Orange Arrows Kaiju Racing liveried BMW. So this is you know, going into the Nordschleife section, very much Linus Stern, really looking up at the pass here after Flugplatz into sort of Swerdenkreuz after this, as that's sort of the last time you'll really be able to start applying that power and getting the grunt out of that BMW. We're in a, feels in an interesting scenario here. We know it's single file, he knows he can't make the move, but he's probably well aware that the car ahead has damage. He knows he's probably got a little bit of pace over him, and he knows he can utilise sort of the benefits that that BMW may have over the Porsche. Porsche can't take the curves, very bouncy, almost like a pogo stick in some areas here. So it's interesting how that battle's going to develop as we go on board with Joe Dorber, who's got a damaged front end, chasing down Marco Badowski, who's also got that damage as well. Coming through the hairpin as we see Emo Plata going wide again, another mistake coming through that section. That might have just, you know, meant that Badowski couldn't quite apply the throttle in order to avoid that, meaning Joe Dorber might have the run into the foxhole we're going on here. He just runs out and washes onto the gravel, thankfully keeps it out the barrier, so he'll be able to get back on the racetrack, lose a couple positions, and just needs to get back in and refocus, because right now the last thing you want to be doing is losing focus as you're driving around the Nordschleife.
Yeah, one thing to note for you guys watching at home, the standings on the left, obviously we're limited by what ACC show us, might not be the actual standings, so they only update every sector. As Richard Withall there getting a bit side by side with Kalasayud in one of the Porsches, I believe, coming through. That's a very brave move to be trying to make down the inside, as we cut to Sontag briefly and then back to Varga, sorry, behind Richard Withall there. So Varga is in the 508 car, 6/10 behind on the last sector split, coming through the sort of downhill section of the forest, and we cut to a car stationary. Julien Kurtz there, ooh, big hit into that outside barrier there. That's, again, you know, you get damage further earlier on in the lap, and you've got to try and make it round with damage. So I think a lot of these cars are falling victim to that, you know, picking up a little bit of damage as we cut back to the Varga Withall fight there, and then trying to sort of survive the lap with damage. It's hard enough to survive the green hell with a fully functioning car, let alone one that's sort of not behaving as you'd expect, you know, a bit of extra understeer due to damage or oversteer, etc. Very, very hard to get it back to the pits for a stop.
You're absolutely right, Callum. Damage breeds damage in this place. You get that tiny bit of oversteer, that tiny bit of understeer that you've just said. The car's not behaving the way you want it, and all of a sudden mistakes start coming in. You hit a curb slightly differently, which just breeds more mistakes. And we've seen an overtake here. Aussie Tigris on Vlad Will coming up the uphill section and into what will be Bravery corner. So again, maybe just applying that power a lot better on the Porsche as they go through. Oh, what a corner! Just quickly dab on the brake, downshift, hook it in, and just really hope that you're not going to meet the wall on the right hand side. That is definitely probably one of the scariest and best corners on this circuit. But Vossi Tigris in the Porsche, looking racy as it stands, and he's on the hunt now for, I believe, it's Christian Lindgren and then chasing Honsel. Looking up at the lead, John Dalton, comfortable 1.7 seconds lead at the minute. It hasn't run away probably in the way we'd expect, but Nicole Fox is still absolutely hunting Tobias Sontag down. Still as hungry as ever, still half a second behind, chasing down this BMW as we come through the section after carousel, this tight, twisty section. Really only one line through here. Any sort of remote offline and you're just going to start bleeding time through this section. So fast paced, so precise. It's honestly astounding to see the commitment these drivers have through this section.
Yeah, and I think the big thing for Sontag is Dalton is still in sight as we cut to Varga there, not with Richard Withall. So I think there's probably a problem there as Varga loops it coming out of the carousel, and Huell does a good job to avoid in that bright green Porsche. Very hard now. He's going to have to do a 3-point turn to take it back around. Oh, not good, as we see that bright orange livery car coming in, one we mentioned in the preview of running down the grid there. So a bit of a scary moment, and that is the Nordschleife. You know, you can come around a corner full commitment, and there can be a car just stopped right there after an incident. But for Sontag and Fox, Dalton is still in sight. You can see it in front of Fox there. You know, just that little flash of the Porsche. Oh, Fox runs wide out over that curb. In real life, you've got to be really, really careful around this Nürburgring with curbs. The biggest generator of downforce on these kind of cars and Formula cars is the floor of the car. The floor generates a lot of the downforce, a lot of the suction down towards the track. So you run these cars as low as you can get away with. And obviously, clattering over curbs is not going to do the floor any good. As we see Tigris stationary there. Seeing a lot of mistakes in this race now, Callum. A lot of mistakes coming out. You know, the concentration required to lap the Nordschleife. It's just an understeer moment there, and clatters the wall, and that sends you right back round again. Hopefully we'll be able to get it going sensibly, waiting there for people to come through as to not take anyone else out. As we cut back to Fox on the long back Dottinger Ho straight, gaining slightly in the slipstream on Sontag there.
In the slipstream, but I'm not sure if she's going to have quite enough space or quite enough room to go for the move here, probably because of the mistake that she made into that twisty section that probably just lost her a bit too much time. As we go on board with Joe Dorber now, who's got the run on Marco Badowski, the BMW clearly with more straight line speed, or Badowski just feeling the effects of the damage that that he occurred on that lap one. Instantly Armstrong chases down Emma Plato, who's made a mistake but still hasn't lost too far out. sitting in P13 as we now have a battle for P2. Nicole Fox trying to go around the outside of turn 1. Outside becomes the inside if she can hold it through, and she does. Now it's just a battle on the throttle. Who can apply the throttle better? They're still on the even, and Nicole Fox just applies the throttle a bit too much, losing that rear end on that Porsche. It's so loose, so hard to control. The Porsche widely considered as one of the hardest cars to race in this simulator, and that's what you're seeing why just so eager to get on the power and make sure that we go side by side into the next corner, which she would have had the inside. Just makes that minor mistake, but right now she's probably thinking she knows she can get him. She knows she's got side by side once. She could do it again, probably hungrier now than she has been to this point.
Big point of that though, Dalton is now 3.8 seconds ahead. So you can see just one corner of fighting loses you that much time in this field as we cut to a couple of cars there with damage, as we see Kluper there, I think defending, and just getting tagged by the side of the Porsche. We apologise, we've made comments about how clean this race has been so far to our lovely stewarding team, who have reported that we're currently on line 39 of the report sheet by just the end of lap 1. So hope you guys are keeping busy in there. It's been a long time since you guys have probably heard me in the box. So we've got a great team in there: Eric, McKenna, Matt, Oliver, and Tom Watts down there, all in the steward's room, taking a look at all of the potential incidents and reports as they come in live. We are very sorry for how busy we've been, but good racing here as Nicole Fox comes through. And a point I wanted to make as well about this sort of very unique Nürburgring lap that we've got is, usually on a real life race circuit, you can sort of eye yourself up for a move. You can see where someone is good, or someone is bad, and you can sort of probe for weaknesses because you have multiple laps, in an hour and a half race. This, you've only got 12 chances at each corner. You can't really judge, okay, that person's really bad into T1, so I'm always going to be there. Because if you have a bad exit down through the last corner coming out the Dottinger, you're not going to be there. So it's very much sort of a rolling risk assessment these drivers have to do, as we see Sontag just kicking up a little bit of dirt there as they come through this fast section up through at the start of the lap of the Nordschleife, coming down towards Arenberg, taking that left-hand bend and then braking heavy down the gears here. Quite a tight inside line there by Sontag, not really using all of the track. But again, Nordschleife, you don't really have to. You don't have to explore the limits of every single line you have to take. But Nicole Fox definitely faster through this section. It's very hard to judge a move around here. Very, very hard to judge because it's not got a lot to work off.
That's a really good point, Callum, and one that I've never really thought of. You're absolutely right. Only 12 laps to really judge what the car ahead of you is doing in terms of braking points, where they're strong, where they're not strong. And on a normal racetrack, you might be setting up a move 4 or 5 laps in advance, to really just like learn what that other car's doing and how it behaves. And you've only got 12 opportunities. That's definitely something I've never considered, especially when commentating and racing on a race like this, as we go on board with Christian Lindgren, who's chasing down Hansel at this stage. The Porsches are looking rather racy in this race trim. I don't know if they're just able to apply the power down on that rear axle a lot better. It does seem like these cars are just gaining so much on exits into the corners. They go through miss, hit, miss, and it's this really tight section where it's like a right-handed braking downhill, so hard to control the braking into that section. Loop it round to the left, and you can actually get on the power as we're on camber really, really early in that section. So you go on board with Idris Partes, who's just been claimed by Foxhole, a very blind left-hand corner uphill. Again, it's one of those ones you're sort of half on the brake, downshift, hook it to the left, and just hope you've hit the right section of the curb. Sadly, Partes didn't in that instance and has paid the price. On board with Olivier Curtin, who's taking an interesting line through Foxhole that I haven't seen in a long time, but ultimately has worked out. He hasn't taken any damage from that. As we're back on board now with Nicole Fox, who's right on the back here of Tobias Sontag as we come up the hill and into Bravery Corner. She's sort of tucked half in the slipstream, half out, trying to see where she's got the room. But climbing up this hill, this is a straight. We are flat throughout this whole section, but we're weaving left, we're weaving right. There's not much room, and this is being wonderfully defended by Sontag, just placing his car in all the right places at this stage. Into Bravery corner, quick downshift, flick it to the left, and you can see Nicole being a little bit more conservative. Doesn't want to get in the wash there of the BMW and make a mistake. Drops a couple attempts off the back of that. Probably hoping to get right on the back for the Dotting Hoe, and probably her best opportunity to get that P2 position.
Yeah, it must be a really good exit out of Bergwerk up there before coming up to the final corner. We believe that's Huel there on the outside of Withel, I believe, coming through up through that far section as I get it confirmed in my ear. So making a move, not quite into Bravery corner or Mutt curve, but yeah, making that move through that section is so difficult. Especially around here on the Nürburgring, those really high commitment corners as we cut back to Fox going through the first carousel here. Great exit through there, and Nicole Fox going to be side by side just on the rear quarter of that car. So got to give space now, got to give space all the way up alongside. Is it going to be leading to a move? Running right outside there is the BMW, just sort of holding the position there and cutting back in front. Really hard. You can get halfway alongside it, does not mean you're going to be anywhere close to making a move.
Yeah, it's brilliantly defended by Tobias Sontag, making the mistake there in the carousel, and then a further mistake going wide there into that section, but still manages to keep the place. I don't know if Nicole Fox is being a little bit conservative. We've got an hour left in this race. She knows she's quicker than the car ahead, so just waiting for the opportune moment. Doesn't want to take many risks here at the Nordschleife, and maybe that's what played out. But either way, a brilliant set of driving, very safe driving here at the Nordschleife. Track isn't wide. Going side by side through that section, it requires a significant amount of trust for the people you're racing, and this has been nothing but respectful and clean from these two at this stage, as Raphael Huel chasing down Tigris, who we've seen had a few issues, probably subject to a little bit of damage at this stage. We can see the damage also on Raphael Huel's car. Huel, we know, has got a bucket load of pace in that aggressively luminous green Porsche, but again, fights happening up and down the field. We can see on the track map it's starting to space out, and there's a lot of battles happening here. Richard Withel being close to sort of Raphael Huel and Tigris here. This 2 is going to become a 3. Got Kumpu on the back of Lindgren as Tigris making another mistake, but manages to keep it. Nicole Fox and Sontag is another battle. The Nordschleife is delivering for us, Callum, as we said it would from the start.
Yeah, really lucky to get away with that one. Another point I'd like to make, we are about 7 minutes, mate, to making this point, but the pit window has been open. So any of these guys out there driving with damage, it's probably something they feel that they're comfortable racing around for the moment, or that they don't want to run an hour on one set of tyres. So anyone out there with damage right now, I think Lily is the first car that had pitted under the pit lane, under the time. So I think Lily is the first one who completed their mandatory pit stop. Plate here in the Mercedes, down in 11th after that mistake. I think ahead there of Redford there, so making a move up ahead. Yeah, passed on to the straight as we cut down to Lindgren in 5th place, attacking Honsel in that BMW up through the first hairpin down towards the cut through here as we turn left, and then down towards the Dunlop curve. Very hard to make a move unless you're already significantly alongside. This Nürburgring, when you make a mistake, the car ahead of you makes a mistake, it's very easy to sort of pick your way past. But if you drive a good defensive line and you know what you're doing and you're comfortable with your car setup, as we see, I believe that is Nico Kumpu ever lurking in the background, you can sort of block here. It's very easy to hold a position. It's going to be very stressful because you've got 64 minutes and 6 seconds plus 1 lap to do that for, but you can hold a position, as we see. I imagine Sontag here is doing on Fox, probably getting quite frustrated being held up there. Could potentially have a go at Dalton if she was let free.
Yeah, potentially, and it'll be a mammoth of a 6-second gap to catch Dalton off the back of getting that. These Porsches are looking excessively racy. Christian Lindgren poking a little bit of a nose there on the straight and into the chicane, but thinking a little bit better of it. Doesn't want to go side by side here. Now he's got to contend with following the BMW once again. through the Nordschleife. It has to be said, exactly going off your point, Callum, these BMWs are just placing their cars in the completely right areas. Lindgren makes a lunge down the inside there, a place you don't often see moves. Now going side by side into this section, this is going to get dicey, but he gets the move done. He finally gets it, and Nico Kumpu was probably waiting for them to go side by side and then get involved. And just seeing that move by Lindgren, I go, oh, well, actually, I probably wanted to get a bit more involved in that, but Lindgren, a very opportunistic move there. Just seeing Hansel drift a little bit wide on the, probably which uncharacteristically is one of the hardest corners on the track, is when you actually go onto the Nordschleife section. As we see, I believe that's Keith Whittle being lapped by this trio, but he runs a little bit wide in there, and you just see Lindgren sees that opportunity and dives up the inside. A wonderful move by Lindgren, as we've actually on board with Nicole Fox. This wasn't the trio that was sort of overtaking Keith Whittle. Still chasing down Sontag, probably sitting here going, right, no more opportunity at the Dottinger. I know it coming up the hill into the carousel section, but just waiting for that mistake at this stage. But Sontag, I say, as he's not making mistakes, makes a brutal mistake, running a bit too much over the curb and paying the price there. Very, very bouncy, as we see the absolute brutality of the curves. But that mistake, he's been teetering around, really pushing that BMW. We've seen a few minor mistakes from him that he has been able to hold, but finally the major one comes, setting free Nicole Fox into that P2 position.
Yeah, I think Nicole Fox probably very happy to finally get past there from Sontag, and you know, it shows you how easy it is to make a mistake around here. Probably a little bit of damage to the front end, but here we cut to the race leader, John Dalton. Not really got much love on the screen so much. Judas has out in front. Yeah, John Dalton, really commanding performance. And you say, 7 seconds is a big gap. It's a second a lap, and a second a lap round the ring isn't actually that much, so it is really possible here for Fox to potentially look at claiming a race win if she can sort of really push on now. But got to be big pace here, and I imagine Dalton's got something in reserve. I don't think this will be everything from Dalton here.
No, I think you're right, Dalton. 7 seconds in the lead, and you're right. That's a second a lap. You probably can afford just relax a little bit, maybe drive at 90-95%, not really push the car to its absolute maximum, meaning just saving that reserve for not making mistakes. Obviously, when you're going absolutely 100%, that's when the mistakes start coming in. But being able to drop to about 90-95% pace, he just has that in the bag to really just feel a little bit more relaxed on the racetrack, and again, comfortability and flow and just being confident is exactly what you at them. Riding on board with Peter Varga here, who's chasing down Ted Edwards, who's also a one-off joiner here at the Nordschleife, or the final round of the Deutschland Masters. This is BMW on BMW action as they go through miss, hit, miss. Called miss, hit, miss because you're meant to miss the first apex, hit the second, and then miss the third. Coming into this tight, twisty section, again, just hook it round, and then early on the power, you could see Ted there maybe managed to just turn that in a lot earlier than Peter Varga, and therefore was able to apply the power. And you could just see that BMW just start to gap Peter Varga there on exit. As we go on board with Nico Kumpu, who's still in this fight with Hansel, but you could see Lindgren starting to gain the legs that we know the Porsches are currently having in this race, and gap these two, probably going after and wanting to chase down Tobias Sontag, who now he's seen made a mistake, knows he's prone to that mistake, and wants to start applying that pressure, and probably going for a P3 position.
Yeah, and I think cutting back to that earlier battle that we saw of Lindgren getting past Hansel, Kumpu, is going to be sat there really frustrated. It's one of the first things you learn in racing, and one of the first things you learn even in go-karting. Somebody ahead of you makes a move, you follow them through. It's the easiest way to gain a position in race cars. And I think Nico probably just disappointed, as we see there. I think that is Varga getting past in yellow and blue BMW there. Yeah, coming out of, I believe that's out of Bergworks, up through Kelschischen towards the Bravery corner, or as it's actually known in German, Mutzkurve. It is the big high commitment left-hander at the top of the hill. Yeah, as they come up out towards the carousel there. But yeah, really frustrated that he couldn't quite follow them through. Blue flags there from Manso going past, I believe, is that the Whittle car? I'm not 100% sure on these liveries off the top of my head. But yeah, blue flags there. A little bit of maybe impeding. You know, you've got to be careful if you're getting blue flags. You know, you need to be letting the guy past, as we see Keith Whittle there. I think that is Mercedes, so that's probably plate behind, getting blue flags again. You know, once you go a lap down here at the Nürburgring bar, you know, in real life, you know, a code 60 or a full course yellow, it's very hard to come back. Obviously, we don't have these here on RCI just for this 1.5 hour race. Still 57 minutes to go. Still 41 minutes of pit window. Armstrong is the first car in the line of cars that have made their stops, I think.
Yeah, Lily Armstrong with the early pit. Unsure if they had damage. Looking at their pit stop time at 1 minute 25.2. Looking that against some other boxers, it looks like the quicker time, so maybe didn't have any damage or as much damage to be boxing. But we'll see how that sort of materializes as other people pit. Probably just wanting clear air. Probably just wanting to do some laps and just put in some clean, simple laps. I mean, we know that Lily Armstrong is a controller player. So we've got a race replay here with Rich Whittle, the other Whittle out of the two. I think Shuey went on it because we thought we had an instant there, but no instant. Whittle was run on board with Bartes. Yeah, Lily just probably wanting some clear air. I think I'd be doing exactly the same. It's a strategy we do see from a lot of people here. Tom Shipston is known to do, especially this season, some early pit stops and just want to race in clear air. Mike Redford often you see go the other way and actually run long and then do the last pit stop, or the other way, you know, pit as early as possible. But really, this is where I'm going to expect to see a lot of people start boxing. We're sort of getting towards halfway. Anyone that maybe fancies an undercut might be boxing here. If not, we're probably going to see the majority of the cars come in next lap.
Yeah, so obviously the advantage to going long and boxing is that you're boxing and you're using fresh tyres on lower fuel. So that means you can get the most out of tyres and get the most lap time in that, as we see the Mercedes here of Bartes tucked up behind Ted Edwards in the slipstream. Good straight line speed on that Mercedes. He might be able to have a look potentially if he can get side by side coming out under the gantry. Yeah, so he's going to make that move. I think he will make that move by the time he gets there. You know, if he's side by side there, you know, big commitment, but Ted's got to leave him the space there, and that turns into the inside line for this section. And Ted's got to back out of that. You know, it's very hard to run 2x2 into this section. Very tight here. Redford with a bit of the damage on the front end, so we'll see how much a damaged pit stop here. I believe that a bit more damage than we've seen from him, so maybe a bit of an error somewhere there. As Bartes, yeah, does get ahead of Ted Edwards, our very own RCI's Ted Edwards, cutting back up to Nico Kumpu. But yeah, the advantage of having that pit stop later would be using fresher rubber on lower fuel. However, if you do that, you are going to get yourself into more traffic after your pit stop. Pitting earlier would mean less traffic, but you have to run fresh rubber on higher fuel. So, you know, a sort of balance there between overall sort of feeling of the car or having a very, very rapid car right at the end. Obviously, Stewie bringing up the third option, which is not changing tyres at all. That is an option here. You can make the tyres last that long, and having a little bit of a short fuel potentially to do in the pit stop. But we'll see. I'm sure these guys have thought through, practiced, thought about their strategy of what they're going to do. Maybe had a bit of a discussion with each other of their teammates about what they found is best in practice. As we cut to Kumpu still running through here. Still a second back. You know, you really want him to be closing that gap. You know, championship fight. Yes, he's got the overall race position at the minute over Badowski, but that will not be anywhere near enough. Badowski would have to have a major problem now.
Yeah, Badowski would need a problem with the amount of people I think we've had drop out of this race as well. Badowski finish, and he's got the points for it. Badowski would need to quite literally retire in order for and Kumpu still get fastest lap in order for that championship to go to Kumpu. So he's most likely sitting here understanding he can't get the win, securing that P2 position. But if we're being honest, John Dalton does look untouchable as we ride on board with Phil Roberts just at the wrong time there, losing his rear end coming over these curves. This is such a difficult section because you want to be mounting the curbs here in order to get the optimal line, but mounting the curbs might unsettle the rear, which is exactly what we see from Phil Roberts. Very lucky to keep it out of the wall there. But you'll see him holding his brakes, waiting for that opportune moment, and going back on to the racetrack. I do want to say we've seen obviously a number of instances here, Callum, up and down the racetrack from people making mistakes. What I do absolutely love to see is we haven't seen many instances of cars going into other cars, and that's because what I've noticed is everyone is doing a really good job of holding brakes, making sure they're predictable, waiting for cars to come past, and then circulating back into the racetrack. It's something so minor but so important for these other races to not ruin any other people that are coming across. Just holding your brakes, waiting for the space, and coming through. I know it's heartbreaking watching the cars come past you. That's something I'm noticing today, which is really, as we now see, sorry, just to jump straight back in, Christian Lindgren is on the back of Tobias Sontag. We could be looking at a Porsche 123 here, Callum.
Yeah, good pace from that Sim Brothers racing car of Lindgren. Sontag, I think, just struggling after going offline, running wide, letting Fox back through. It's a bit demoralising. She's now a second and a half up the road, still 9.5 seconds on the last split to John Dalton. So not quite catching Dalton as we thought. So maybe Dalton's unleashed a little bit of extra pace there before potentially a pit stop. Might want to, if he is boxing for tyres, might want to use that. I mean, he's got the time. So yeah, as we see Lindgren coming up the hill out of Bergwerk through Kleschen and up towards the Mutt curve, going towards the high commitment left-hander here, as we've sort of seen a bit of an action point here. It's sort of a bit of a dividing factor of how well you can do with this race. How much commitment you can show through there, and Sontag showing all the commitment, running onto even a bit of the dirt there, as we see Porsche very good on the brakes, closing up. And I believe we're about to have our first little bit of steward work come in from the evening. We've had our comments saying that the incidents from lap 1 will be posted very shortly as they come through the carousel there, taking the dip there. It's a very big jump in real life. It is not a small bump at all riding that carousel, especially with these race cars. Very soft, stiffly strong suspension, and massively amounts of tunability in even the damper settings. You can control how quickly the damper extends, how quickly the damper reacts. Those are called bump and rebound. And then obviously you've got spring rates you can change. In real life, that would take an hour maybe for a proper GT3 team to do it. I mean, if you have the unit there to swap out straight away, you could maybe do it in a lot less time to change the spring, but only one click in simulator, which is probably one of the joys. I don't imagine any of these guys really fancy spending that long working on their cars. As we see Whittle here, Keith Whittle, the other Whittle car, coming in together. Oh, a bit of a side-by-side with BMWs there. That's a bit ugly as Ted Edwards comes through on camera there, and not entirely desirable, that side-by-side. Oh, sorry, that was a lap 1 incident, I'm being told by Stewie, so that's probably going to involve some kind of penalty. I'll let you take the first penalties of the race, Callum. Go for it.
Want me to take the mammoth of penalties? Thank you for the throwing that over to me. We're getting them thick and fast, but we already have had a heads up from the stewards, and what you'll see on our timing screen on the left-hand side, no time penalty have been allocated yet, because the stewards, who, once again, big shout out to the people that are dedicating their time, just quickly going on board with a race replay. This is a mistake from John Dalton. John Dalton has made a mistake, Callum. We thought he would be going 95%, taking a little bit of pace off, but he's still clearly pushing that Porsche to the absolute brink, and he's made a mistake. Still ahead of Nicole Fox, but if he has to repair that damage, which I'm sure he does have to, because that was a pretty mammoth hit, he's going to lose out on the lead here. Drama as we come into what will be our first round of pit stops. So as we see him come into the lane, I'll quickly try to cover up as much stewarding as we can, because we're about to see this race go up an absolute level.
That's what you get when you betray the commentary box. It is because John Dalton, will he be coming? No, carrying on, not boxing. So it might be one of them magical sim racing ones where, as Fox, very late decision there, very, very, very late decision to come into the box. So probably seen that John hasn't boxed and has decided to come in. We'll know that she'll have gained quite a bit there, so we'll know that John has gone off. We'll probably have seen the yellow flags as we cut to just being dragged out wide by the gravel and the grass on the outside, spinning, holding the brakes, avoiding everything. Oh, car coming over the rise, very, very scary there. But yeah, so probably would have seen that there would be an instant for John. And a very good flick turn there to get on the way by Paredes. Yeah, so Fox in the pit. Now, what will she take? It'll be interesting to see if she takes tyres.
I think with the 50-50 strat that we're seeing, I think she will most likely take tyres. With John not boxing, I'm now sort of just reeling in my head, what is his strategy here? He clearly doesn't want to fix the damage, clearly thinks he can go an extra lap of that, but he's already losing time to Tobias Sontag, who was a few seconds behind Nicole Fox, and he was 9 seconds ahead of Nicole Fox coming into the pit stop. So he is losing pace here, and this could be detrimental because that damage is just, as we said earlier on, damage breeds damage in this. He needs to keep this clean. I wonder if he's actually taken a full lap of fuel and doing what Stewie theorised when we were talking about strategy, and actually doing a no tyres and just a fuel strat, lowering the pit stop there. So I think my mind's absolutely going 100 mile an hour to see what John Dalton is really doing with this. But that crash and that damage has blown everything into proportion. We thought this was a secured win. It no longer is. Nicole Fox is probably right now, as it stands, my favourite to win this race. I'm going to quickly try my best to get through the stewarding stuff in as quick as possible with what is commonly known as a cop-out. But as you'd see on the left, we don't have a lot of time penalties, because a lot of the penalties, and again, thank you to our stewards team who have given up their time every Monday for the past 5 weeks to live steward these rounds, and it's so impactful not only to the broadcast but also to the racers have sort of this live stewarding service, and they do an incredible job week in, week out. But we have a number of racing incidents, sort of warnings, and no further actions sort of across board here. Racing incidents being, it's just racing. Two people might have tried to occupy the same bit of racetrack. There could have been a little bit of door banging, but that's what a racing incident is, and you've got a number of those coming across for lap 1. Couple of warnings though. We've got the 777 and the 45. We've got a warning for the 777 there for avoidable contact. So that was still a contact that you saw, but maybe not of a nature warranted a time penalty. This is what we saw earlier with Joe Dorber going into the back of Marco Badowski, which started that chain reaction. So Joe Dorber got a warning for that particular contact. Another warning for the 21. With the 21 and the 30, that's a warning for the car 30, again for avoidable contact, so something very similar. And they are the only 2 warnings. A couple of no further actions that have been listed out. No further actions is what you would usually give in the steward's box if we feel like maybe both cars were deemed at fault, or someone's made a contact but they ultimately came off as the worst party. So stewards have been exceptionally busy in the booth, and again, massive love to our live stewards week in, week out, giving up their time and putting in the amazing work they do. But nothing of note really at this stage in the race which could have a lasting impact.
Yeah, nothing really coming through. A lot of just, as you said, no further actions or sort of a few little warnings there. I think the stewards sort of choosing to take a very sensible look at this. It's a big, long race. These guys, you're getting into someone and causing self-damage. You're going to be punishing yourself more than anything else, potentially having to box and fix the damage. And everyone here being quite respectful. If you do go into someone, they're letting them ahead, making sure they don't gain time, making sure they don't gain positions from potential accidental little bits of damage there. So as we still cut to John Dalton, still managing, I think, decent pace, not really lost too much time to Sontag after this lap started. So clearly that damage, not as bad as we thought, maybe, but he did lose about 5 seconds in that time from that little incident there. So still not perfect for John, but as you say, I think this is going to put Fox right on the back. She's going to have fresh tyres coming out of the pits potentially. I mean, we're not entirely sure on the strategies. Obviously, one of the downsides of this sim racing is we can't see tyre changes. We can judge them due to pit stop length times, which I believe Stewie can see and does do an excellent job of trying to keep us as up to date as possible. But losing time, sort of 1 to 2 seconds loss in the next sector, we think. So potentially, according to the live deltas, obviously these lap times and deltas on the side aren't 100% up to date. As we cut to Sontag, who is coming up, I believe that is after the coming up to the carousel, or just after the carousel. I'm not coming up to the carousel. Yeah, trying to get my my Nürburgring corners. They do all look very, very similar. But yeah, so Dalton losing a tiny bit of time, but not a lot, bearing in mind the length of the lap.
Yeah, so looking at sort of our tool, Dalton has lost 1.5 seconds on this lap so far compared to his best. But going to the pit stop times, I do have them on the screen. Nicole Fox with a 109.921. The next quickest pit stop I have is actually Idris Partes with a 123. That could be Nicole not taking tyres, or could be Nicole taking tyres. We will need a bit more information from other people boxing in to fully digest that. It could have been damages. He reminds me. Olivier Curtin, we saw him have an incident and a drive-through at the early point in this race, but he is still in this and fighting, and the commentator curse strikes again. That's 1-1, Callum, for commentator's curse, but it looks like Foxhole has claimed another victim in the way of Olivier Curtin, someone who's had an incredibly strong season, probably one of the strongest he's had here on RCI. The pace that Olivier Curtin is exuberating at the minute has been incredible. Nicole Fox getting past Christian Lippert, that would have been that's absolutely crucial to her strategy right now, as she didn't want to be, waiting half a lap stuck behind Clippert here, disposing of him early in order to benefit from this undercut that she's doing right now was absolutely key, and she disposed of him quickly and efficiently. But yeah, going back to Olivier Curtin having such a strong run of form, but sadly this race is not the race to round out the season. Currently sitting in P7 in the championship with a lot of people hot on their heels. I struggle to see a way where they're going to hold on to that P7 in the championship with people being so close on board with Judas Dalton, which is what we've obviously dubbed him for this race, coming down the Dottinger with the amount of damage that we feel like he's got with that heavy hit. I can only imagine his top speed is absolutely crying right now. Hasn't lost a lot of time to Tobias Sontag in that lap, but overall, compared to his pace, according to his pace, Stewie just telling me now 3 kph on the straight, and with the length of that straight, that is absolutely massive. But on this lap, losing 2.3 seconds on his delta, Nicole Fox right now still in prime position to really take this to John and potentially take the win.
And like from my point of view here, from sort of a point of view of someone who's got a bit of an idea of strat, John has to box. The earlier Redford there stopped on the side of the track, straight back to pit lane. I believe this is going to be another big one, I'm afraid, coming down. John's not boxing, so ignore everything I've just about said. I believe John isn't boxing, from what Stewie said in my ear. But yeah, I just thought John would box just due to, the sooner he boxes, the sooner he can start gaining that time back. John is boxing. So sorry, sometimes Stewie a little bit hard to hear in the ear. Yeah, he's got to box to sort of that 1 to 2 seconds he's losing per sort of lap, per sector, whatever. That he can now gain this back. These laps from now on for the next 40 minutes, he will be able to gain this time back as long as he fixes his damage. I think maybe he wanted to give it a lap and see sort of what it would do. Maybe that was sort of his idea, sort of see what it would do, see what the laps would do, as we see everyone in the pits actually, 1st through 8th, all pitting on the same lap. Manso is the only car out running, and Fuel. So Manso takes the lead of the race. So it will not be a full John Dalton-led race as John gets going out. Oh no, that's Fox. That's Fox slow. Fox has been slow, so she's had a mistake somewhere coming through, I believe, the high commitment section into the last corner. Yep, spins and hits the wall. And that is one of the downsides of pitting early, is if you make a mistake now, she's going to have to carry that to the end of the race. Dalton's car still looks damaged coming out of the pits, but that might be a visual bug. I'm not 100% sure. It might be. He didn't repair, so John carrying on with the damage. Obviously wouldn't have known that Nicole had had that spin. because that happened literally as John was driving out the pit lane, but John choosing to carry on with the damage. So if we look at the pit stop times there, you can see a 1:12.821 for John, a 1:10.465 for Sontag. Quickest pit stop here, we're looking down, sort of, I believe it's in the 110s region, 109. So quickest pit stop for for Fox there, but obviously she's going to have damage now. She's going to have to carry to the end of the race.
Yeah, we're just waiting for sort of ACC to, go over the timing grid to see where Nicole Fox is currently sitting. Currently E4, Stewie's just corrected me with, so losing out quite heftily from that hit, and also now carrying the damage. Absolutely gutting for Nicole Fox, but it just goes to show sort of the brutal nature that we have here at the Nordschleife. Quite literally P1, P2, people that are running so well, putting in outrageous lap times, even they are capable of making the most costly mistakes at this racetrack, and my heart absolutely bleeds there for Nicole Fox, who's going to be sort of a net P4 here. But it's the nature of the beast, and in such a game it looked like a fairly hefty hit, purely side damage there. But maybe she'll be able to claim with, sort of climb back into sort of the net P3s or the net P2s with the pace that she has. But it's absolutely gutting for her, and you can see you can see just how much time. I mean, the 899 on the track mat there, she's lost a fair amount.
Yeah, it's a big chunk of time. When we were thinking of chatting for her to be potentially battling, John for the win there at the end of this lap, sort of, it's gutting to make that mistake at that point of the circuit, right at the end of the lap as well, as we're on board following Nico Kumpu, who, has he finally made that move? Is that finally Nico Kumpu past Hansel? So obviously Nico Kumpu has been behind Hansel trying to get past for a very, very long time now. Probably very frustrated. Finally, that Porsche is coming through the field as he comes through the high commitment corners after the Flutplatz towards Arenberg here. You've got that over the crest left-hander, and then the fast left-hander that you've got to sort of sacrifice a little bit here as you come through this left-hander so that you can get the braking right in towards Arenberg. And I'm being told that someone had a 3.5. Nico Kumpu with the pit stop getting ahead. 3.5 second quicker stop than the car in front of Hansel. So that showing that keeping your nose clean and not having to repair damage potentially might be a factor of how you gain a position here.
Yeah, obviously if people are choosing to repair that in the pit stop, they are doing it at the sacrifice of that position. I see it up and down the racetrack today, where people are going to be sacrificing that position in order to repair the damage. And we've said damage is going to breed damage in this place, so for me personally, I'd definitely be repairing damage, as that's Rudy Philmalter who has been turned around as well. I believe this is coming up into Bravery corner. Has he just pushed it that little bit too far? Maybe here, a bit of a curb, turns it round. Does he keep it out the barrier? It's a light kiss on the barrier there, so he's going to be able to reverse and get back onto the racetrack. But one to forget, currently sitting down in 24, maybe not the best Nordschleife race that he's having right now. But going back to sort of this lead, we call it a conundrum almost. Boxing for the damage is going to lose you track position. Maybe that's required here at Nordschleife. I mean, I'm not the brightest of sparks when it comes to race strategy. I believe this is another mistake here by Keith Whittle, which sees him turn around on the racetrack. But Callum, obviously, you work in the real world when it comes to strategy and engineering. And on a track like Nordschleife, would you sacrifice track position in order for a car that you're going to be more comfortable in for the second half of the race?
It's hard to say. I mean, a lot of the work I do is sprint race. So, if you pit in a 15-minute race, your race is over anyway. You're going out there to just claim the championship points for finishing near the back, and that's about it. But the thing I would argue with, especially for the length of this race, you need to be comfortable in that car. So, if you can do a lap like John has, and probably decided, actually, this isn't that bad. I can sort of live with this. So, potentially that's what he's done there, and he's done that lap, and he's decided that he can live with the damage, and he's comfortable with the time that he might have bled to Sontag. Maybe that's why he hasn't chose to fix the damage. It's all about comfortability. So it's a judgment call really. And in real life racing, you do have the engineer to say box. They think that you need to. But at the end of the day, it's a driver's call, and that's what we always say. Especially with the wet to dry transition, it's always the driver's call. It's the team's responsibility to be ready for the driver's call. As we cut to Fox coming through the first carousel, going to be disappointed to be behind Lindgren there. Lose a good position to Sontag, fair enough. That's going to be gutting, but being stuck behind Lindgren as well, she's still got good pace, so she'll be taking solace from that she's still got decent pace here, and she is still keeping with this sort of leading group. Only 8/10 behind Lindgren at the last sector split, as we watch from Nico Kumpu's rear wing towards Honsel there. Now, roles reversed, Honsel having to chase behind and follow through the tight and twisty Nürburgring forest. John Dalton currently on the last sector split 4.334 seconds ahead of Sontag. Could we see Sontag potentially coming back into play here?
Could be. It does seem like Sontag, although we're seeing sort of those minor little mistakes from him, hasn't really made one that has got him damage on the car, and that really could be the difference between a P1 or a P2 here. I mean, before the pit stops, that was sitting around 8.5 seconds. Now it's down to 0.3, and I do think John Dalton has to push that car exceptionally more in order to keep it ahead of Sontag and able to maintain that gap, whereas Sontag might just be able to just creep up to the back to him. We've got 32 laps left. That could be, around the 4 laps left mark. Plenty of opportunity to sort of relish in sort of any error that Dalton does. Slowly start to creep up. Oh, at least Kumpu making a mistake now. The Porsche is absolutely being punished here. Although they might be the quicker car on the circuit, it does seem they are just a harder beast to tame right now. Kumpu just going wide as we come into the corner just before the second carousel and just drifting into that barrier, similar to what we saw with Carlos Calatiad on lap 1, which saw a little bit of collision with a couple of cars in there. But again, absolutely gutting for Kumpu, who had jumped Honsel in the pit and now sadly is now behind Honsel with some damage to boot as well. I absolutely feel for these guys. They put the effort in. They're going through the mental strain that is driving on the Nordschleife in general, and to make mistakes like that after driving so well, it's just absolutely heartbreaking in the comms box, let alone for these drivers. As Nicole Fox, you're absolutely right, still hungry, still full of pace and chasing down Lindgren. But this is Porsche on Porsche. It's not going to be like the fight with Sontag, where you can utilise the Porsche benefits that it has over the BMW, use that exit and really just gain on those exits and start to chase on the straights, as Martin Foster now also making a mistake. I'm not sure what section of the racetrack this is. This is into this tight section, so maybe just not getting the braking quite right, clips the inside barrier, which ultimately knocks him into the right-hand barrier. Absolutely gutting for Foster, currently running in P22. But Nicole Fox, we've got Porsche on Porsche action. It's not like with the BMW, which you can utilise the benefits you get with the Porsche, that fast exit speed, the benefits around the corners. You've now got to really force that mistake because you're going to get someone in equal machinery. Also, she's also rocking a bit of damage. It's a whole new challenge previously than what she had with the 5%.
Yeah, it's a completely new car to relearn, but, well, damage, but fastest lap from Nicole Fox. Slipstream is a big factor here. You've got some very, very long straights and some very long runs, so Nicole Fox quickly getting used to the damage on that car. Obviously, it's not causing her too much time, just the big, obviously, time loss in the half spin and spinning into the barrier that's caused her to drop down the position. So, quite comfortable there as we see Phil Marta again around. But one big point to make now, I think everyone has made their stops. I think everything's going to sort of even out as we see, I believe that's coming out towards the corner before Flugplatz there, I believe, if my Nürburgring knowledge serves me correctly. It is hard to sort of recognise some of these corners because they do all just look the same. Sometimes, it's a tight corner with a red and white apex and a bit of forest behind you. You can pretty much cover 90% of the bends on the Nürburgring for that. Fox right up behind now, but I believe this is going to even out now on this lap to Dalton being in first. We've got Sontag in second. Lindgren, again, another person, clean race, no obvious mistakes, made up some places and come up into what we think will be a net P3. Fox net P4 and Honsel in a net P5 with Nico Kumpu a second behind, well, nearly 2 seconds behind at the last cutting sector split. But the gap between Sontag and Dalton has stayed the same. So in the previous sector, Sontag and Dalton were about 4.5 seconds apart. They're still currently 4.5 seconds apart. So it's boxed now throughout the field.
Yeah, everyone has boxed up and down the field, and the pit stops that are jumping out to me are the likes of Phil Roberts, Christian Clippert, and actually Raphael Huell, which on our timing machine P2, but once that levels out, we'll find out where he's sitting in the race. Under 1 minute pit stops, we've got 57 by Phil Roberts, a 56 by Clippert, and a 53 by Raphael Huell. That, to me, tells me they have not taken tyres and just gone for the fuel and trying to gain that track position. So I'm really interested to see how that sort of evens out, and we can see Raphael Huell was massively down in the order, especially at the start of this race. Get involved in a few incidents. That jumped him all the way to P8. So if he's able to hold on to that, that's an exceptional strategy, even ahead of Nico Kumpu, who obviously has sadly had that mistake. I just want to turn my attention, Callum, to some YouTube and Twitch chat. Actually, we got Gershty, who sadly retired, commenting in the Twitch chat. Saying that he's not the only one, and that's due to, I think, a few people that he's seen make mistakes up and down this field. But we've also got Mike Redford, who we've also seen retire from this race, saying he hates the DNF, but the nature of a first crash then a second crash. I mean, I'm a firm believer if you do crash once or you crash twice in a race, for me, we all enjoy sim racing. We're all here to have fun, but that's exactly it for me. It's fun. If you've stopped enjoying yourself and you want to retire because you don't want to get frustrated and lose your motivation for a race you've got coming up, absolutely no beef or sort of prejudice from me on any retirements here. But Tobias Sontag, I mean, Steve Stewie's just reminded me, we've got 10 Edwards parked up on the side of the car out of the pit stop. Maybe an issue with some hardware or something like that. Currently sitting 19, maybe losing out on positions. A couple of people across the timing line, so a bit of a hardware issue. And I believe that's his second pit stop that Stewie's reminded me of as well as Peter Varga currently in the pits one. But John Dalton just lost a second to Tobias Sontag, whether that's through a mistake or just pace. Kumpu's car's looking battered, by the way, so he's having to deal with that for the rest of the race, or maybe a secondary crash as we ride on board through this tight section. We've already spoken about a little bit over the curb, losing the rear end. He's managed to keep it through here, so coming up to this section before Bergwerk, I believe, or I could be outrageously incorrect. Just losing the rear end, I think we're expecting this uphill sort of on camber corner of the curbs. No mistake here by Kumpu. Hasn't made a mistake. That could be the damage previously seen, or a mistake that we haven't before. But Marco Badowski with that mistake is now just catching up, and that is going to be a little bit of a kick. Kumpu running really well in this race, seeing his championship rival and leader just sort of easily breeze past him. You can see how much he's gaining in this straight line section, just how much straight line pace that Porsche is losing seems to be outrageous right now. But if Kumpu holds on, he could still hold on for maybe a P10 or a P11 in this race, but definitely not the way this final race of the season. So what I did want to say before I got lost in all that was, if you are enjoying what you're seeing here and you want to race with us here at RCI, then please visit racerci.com. ACC isn't the only thing we show appreciation to. We've actually got an LMU series happening every Friday, as Marco Bidowski has got past Nico Kumpu now for P9. That was probably made easy because of the lack of pace that Nico Kumpu currently has with that damage. But we've got LMU on a Friday. That's multi-class action, hypercar and GT3. And for someone who is completely new to LMU and is jumping in on that series, it is unbelievably fun and incredible to watch the broadcast, because we actually have 2 splits for the first time in a long time there at LMU. We've also got an iRacing Endurance series starting following the IMSA season on the website. That's going to be starting almost imminently, our first dive into iRacing Endurance. So that's definitely one I'm going to be utmost in. Can't wait to watch and maybe do some commentating and stewarding over, because that's going to be, I mean, incredible to watch an iRacing series following the IMSA there here on RCI. But also our next round of Mondays is something I hold dear to my heart, Callum. That's because our next round of Mondays that's been announced is in the Genettas And I am such an enjoyer of the Genettas on this game. You will absolutely see me in the racing as Tobias Sontag losing the rear end and in the barrier. Again, Stewie just picking the right camera at the right time. We've commented on Tobias just being able to keep clean and keep out of trouble, and we finally see the crack in the armor and the mistake. He's lost an outrageous amount of time there, and also that was coming onto the Dottinger Hoe, so he's lost an outrageous amount of speed in order to gain in the Dottinger Hoe. And you can see Lindgren now has Tobias Sontag firmly within his sights, and that's going to, I mean, the slide there is going to be awful for his tires as well. We've now back to a three-way fight for P2 potentially if Christian Lindgren, who is undamaged at this point in the race, is able to get on the back of Sontag, bringing Nicole Fox with him. Just going to quickly round out what we've got, but we've got Genettas starting on Mondays. That's the next Monday championship, one that I definitely get involved with. Genettas is always extremely fun, a little bit of GT4 action. Dalton, with the mammoth amount of damage he had, has managed to just bag fastest lap, so that damage not exactly affecting him at this point. Yeah, get involved with RCI, come join the community. It's a brilliant people to enjoy. And yeah,
I have to say, Genettas is something I hold quite close. I think it's one of the first things I commentated on in RCI. It's also something I've worked on in real life. So, Peter Varga going round. That's coming into, I believe, Arenberg. Yeah, the bank corner of Arenberg, through that left-hand committed entry. Really rough there coming through, and loses time and I believe a position there. But yeah, John Dalton, probably the most relieved man in the server right now. He'll have seen the fact that he's got a much bigger gap on his relative now. Is still cars battling. That's Richard Whittle there, so I'm assuming has got ahead of Clipper there, coming in, as it's a BMW on BMW battle with Richard Whittle. Yeah, got ahead in a straight line, I'm being told by Stewie in my ear. So Richard Whittle now up into 14th place as we come down to 21 minutes remaining. Nicole Fox here still up in 4th place, 2.5 seconds on the live timing off the 3rd place finish, and I think probably maybe we made a bit of a mistake potentially as we come up into through the Schumacher S's into the left-hander. Yeah, maybe making a little half spin coming out. It's very easy to run onto too much curb, too little. Yeah, running too much curb on the entry, then just turning in a bit too early, and that really shows how much concentration is needed for these big, long Nürburgring races.
Yeah, and the curbs are absolutely brutal, especially in a Porsche. It's almost pogo stick-esque when you hit a curb in a wrong way in a Porsche, that rear end just bouncing around, and she did extremely well to hold that. I know if I was in that situation, that Porsche would most definitely be facing a lot the wrong way. Currently sitting 1.3 seconds sort of behind that, what will be a Christian Lindgren and Tobias Sontag battle duo, which will ultimately become a trio if they do start going side by side. Back on board with Clipper, who's in this fight with Whittle. We just saw get past Clipper, but Clipper not dropping pace, wanting to get back, well, not dropping back after the overtake and wanting to climb back up. 3/10 behind, coming into the chicane, not wanting to make a move there, but Whittle makes a mistake, and just exactly what we said around curb management and how brutal the curbs are. It's claimed another one, Richard Whittle just going over the curbs on that, and yeah, absolutely gutting, but the place he's just made on Clipper has ultimately just been relinquished back. Yeah, and we go on board now with Emo Plata, who's on board Nico Kumpu. Kumpu just absolutely suffering right now from this damage. Thankfully, I mean, we saw an indication there, Stewie, with keen eyes seeing an indication. He's thinking, I don't want to be battling these guys. I want to minimize the impact it has to my race. Let Emo Plata through and just hold on to P12. 21 seconds back to Lily Armstrong, so he will hopefully be able to hold on to P12 there. And Stewie, again, always providing the information, telling me that Nicole Fox has now dropped to 2.5 seconds behind Christian Lindgren. So it's things happening up and down the field, Callum. I just can't keep up.
Yeah, and that is a Nordschleife race. There's always going to be action as we see Lindgren up at the back of Sontag now. Obviously, Sontag making that mistake, but I believe is, yeah, 0.3, 0.2 of a second. Good exit there out of that sequence of corners. Jinx to the inside, shows the nose just to be all in the mirrors there as we come down. I believe that's heavy braking down towards Exmule and Auschwart. Coming up, this will be up the hill now, that sort of off camber, really awkward exit corner, especially on the Porsche, with that rear engine hanging out up towards, this will be the corner running up towards Bergwerk. Really important to get a good run through Bergwerk, and sort of both cars clipping the apex nicely there. Maybe a little bit of oversteer from the Porsche, so probably not going to be as good a run up the hill, but the BMW's got to punch a hole in the air, so that Porsche can just sit behind him in that hole as we come up through this completely flat section, past the 12-kilometre board of the circuit, through Kleshen and up towards the muck curve now, up towards Commitment Corner, up here, Bravery Corner, as we see. I don't think there's going to be enough bravery for Lindgren to go for a move through here, though.
No, that would be that would be a move and a half. But we've seen it with Sontag and sort of the previous fights with Nicole Fox coming into Bravery, and how well he places his car into the run, into that corner. He makes that BMW as wide as physically possible, even with a bit of damage, probably a little bit of a confidence knock after that hit, and after such a clean race. We know that Tobias Sontag is not going to let this move go easily. He's making that BMW, or he's made that BMW as wide as possible throughout this entire race. But it does seem like if Christian Lindgren is able just to apply that throttle either into the Dottinger or after Bergwerk correctly, that he will be able to get past Sontag. There's clearly a lot of pace in the Porsche at the minute, especially being one of the leaders without any damage. Back on board with Richard Whittle, got past Clipper, made a mistake. Clipper got past back him, and he's thinking, no, I want this place back. I know I'm quicker than him, but while these two are battling, Tigris is just creeping back up. Tigris obviously been involved in a few incidents, a few mistakes, a few trips to the barrier, slowly climbing back up the field, currently sitting in P16, and we know how high his qualifying position was. We know he's got a lot of pace in there, so he's just waiting for this to, you know, I guess he's just waiting for these guys to go side by side, lose a bit of time, and I'm sure he'll be dipping up the inside. Exactly what you spoke about, Callum, earlier around the first rule you make in karting is if you see someone go through, he's going to want to follow directly. But it looks like he's showing the nose here to Richard Whittle, left, right. So maybe not, but it looks like we have got a bit of a tasty fight here for P14.
Yeah, that's just what I said, though, getting in the mirrors. By the way, first rule of karting is, as we all know, don't hit your teammate. First rule of any racing series is don't hit your teammate, and I'm sure some of these guys will have had discussions about the opening lap beforehand, because there are a few teammates in this field, a couple of guys teaming up to provide setup information together, and Tigris, yeah, again, this is the problem Whittle's got now. Whittle's trying to show the nose to Clipper, but also Tigris is now showing the nose to Whittle. So, you know, he's got to defend and attack at the same time from a Porsche and a BMW, as we cut to Lindgren right up on the back of Sontag now. It almost sort of pushing him round. I think we're coming out onto, yeah, this is coming out onto the Dottinger hole, onto that long straight. Sontag going all the way to the right to make his move to try and break a bit of slipstream. No excessive weaving obviously allowed here. That is penalisable. You're not allowed to just weave side by side to completely break the slipstream. Going to pull alongside here. Is it going to be enough of an overlap?
Yes, you know, as soon as he pulls out of that slipstream, he loses the hole that BMW is punching in the air. You can almost just see his paces, though he is still getting that overlap. It has almost stunted as they go through the kink side by side. It looks like they're going to be going side by side into this final section, and there's contact. Two does not go into one there, and that's a huge bit of contact there. And he goes across the track and clips into Christian Lindgren. Drama here for the fight for P2, where two did not go into one. There was a little bit of door banging. We go on board with another fight, but I'm not done talking with that one. A little bit of door banging, absolute drama here for P2. I'm sure we'll see a replay, as it looks like Marco Badowski has got past Raphael Huell in what will be sort of the dying 2 or 3 laps of this race. So Badowski in the Audi, still with a lot of fight left in him. There's still this trio coming through the mini carousel into the Dottinger. Tigris wanted to get side by side coming into the corner there. That's going to disrupt both of their exits and probably give Clipper the best chance of keeping this position down the dotting her. What have we just seen in the past 15 seconds, all within sort of 3 corners of each other?
I mean, I did say it earlier. It's very brave to run side by side through there. As we see, I think Whittle might have a straight line speed problem because he's dropped back quite a lot from Kuiper and been overtaken before the kink by Tigris there. So I think that BMW might be down a little bit in a straight line, or maybe just a poor exit. I stand to be corrected by Stu as observant. But yeah, Whittle's still in that slipstream, so you know, may not be that much of a problem. I'm not 100% sure what's gone on there for Whittle, but Nicole Fox has just turned around the corner and seen the 2 people who might have been pulling away from her a little bit presented, one of them facing the wrong way and one of them facing each other. So, you know, Nicole Fox has just rolled around that corner and gone, thank you very much. Stewie has found the clip. She'll have seen them going side by side and thought, hey up, something might be on here. And then she'll have seen smoke and thought, hey up, something's really on here. And then she'll have come around the corner and seen someone coming across the grass and gone, thank you very much. Still pushing though, still pushing, nearly touching the pit wall then on the way through. As I think we're going to get the point of, you know, it is a scary moment when you see cars coming across the track that you've got to avoid. And yeah, that BMW really, really, really close. But Nicole Fox now, it's a different game now. You've got to hold on, just run your race, run your pace. You're not probably going to have the pace to catch Dalton in front. Probably too big of a gap after her issues that she had earlier in the race. So run your race, run your pace. 12 minutes left, try and nab P2.
Yeah, on one hand, you know, the last thing you want to do is see people crash out of a race, but when you're, you know, she made that mistake, she dropped back into P4, knowing she has the pace for P2, she, I can only imagine, was a little bit chuffed with seeing those 2 cars together, but ultimately the last thing we want to see is a fight for P2 end up that way. But I will say, well avoided. You know, you could clearly see she definitely applied a lot more brake there and just saw the gap, fed it through, and again, props to Tobias and Lindgren there to just hold the brakes, wait for the cars to go through before sorting themselves out. Lindgren's only dropped back to P4. That has promoted Honsel into P3. Whether Lindgren's got the damage in order to take that back to Honsel will remain to be seen in sort of these final 2 laps of the race, or whether we're now looking at just sort of a Dalton, Nicole Fox and Marcus Honsel sort of podium. We'll have to see as these last 2 laps unfold, but it's hard to unpack. No, it's one for the stewards, definitely one for the stewards. I think the stewards are going to be looking at that one quite intently, knowing it was a fight for P2, knowing sort of the gravity for the situation, and we may actually see our first time penalty, Callum, of a 90-minute Nordschleife race.
Yeah, I'd be taking a look at that. Oh, Whittle there, just touching the curb on the inside, it unsettled the car a little bit. If I was the stewards there, they're going to have a long discussion about that. There's a chance, potentially, I mean, we've got an excellent stewards team, but potentially we might see that as a post-race penalty. I don't think it will definitely be a time penalty that's probably applied at the end, but potentially could be post-race, so it might be that there's an amendment to the standing orders here, as Tiger is struggling and Whittle going on the outside, side by side here, through the left-hand kink. I believe we're going to be breaking into a heavy left-hander at the end of this. I'm completely wrong. That's up through a flue plats, and oof, yeah, Whittle being shoved out wide. It was the quick right into the hard braking for the right-hander there. So yeah, Whittle sort of had a sniff there along the outside and absolutely had the door completely slammed shut. No way through there. But yeah, so potentially the stewards might take a look at that. It might be a bit of 6 of one, half of the other. You know, you're both committed to going side by side through there. Tiger's really struggling there, a bit witchy on the rear end. I think that's under braking, which might be a bit of rear locking, so might want to move that front brake bias forwards, as that's a car facing in the wrong direction.
It's a car facing the wrong direction. I'm sure Stewie has immediately found the replay. It's Martin Foster just taking too much curb in the Mercedes, hitting that barrier with quite a bit of pace, spinning the car around, managing to get it over into the grass. But another incident there by Martin Foster. It's just so unfortunate, but we've said it 1,000 times, the curbs are absolutely brutal. One thing I've noticed, which I don't think we've caught, Lily Armstrong was previously running in P12, now running in P15, 15 seconds behind Richard Whittle. Maybe a potential mistake that we haven't caught by Lily Armstrong, who was previously having a very strong race. Back on board with sort of this trio for now, what was P12. Stewie informing me that Lily Armstrong's actually had a second pit stop. That's why they're currently in P15. But back on board with this trio fight for P12, it looks like Tigris is probably the pacier one out of this group as they come up through what will be coming up into the Bergwerk corner shortly. Tigris going side by side. What I've noticed here is he loves to point and nose in, even in positions, you know, maybe not wanting to be patient, not wanting to wait for sort of like a Bergwerk to get the power down to utilize the straight line. He's just wanting to point his nose there and really disrupt these BMWs as much as possible, as often as he can, and it's clearly worked as he's almost coming up alongside Christian Clipper, running a little bit onto the grass. This section, though, we are flat out, we are running sort of left, we are running slightly wide, and you can see that there the track is not as wide as you think. Maybe should be opting for a bit of a patient approach, as that mistake there has ultimately just allowed Richard Withall to get back the position, and all of a sudden, well, Clipper has now made a mistake, and Withall's now beside Christian Clipper. A little bit of contact there. Withall now off the track. This trio is absolutely delivering, swapping places. What feels like 2-3 times a lap at this stage, and there's contact. No, but the little bit of contact which turned Withall into a bit of a half spin. Tigris going, no, that was my mistake, holding the brakes there and letting Withall drive on. So massive props to that. But this trio for P12 is absolutely delivering right now, Callum. Even though there's clearly a massive pace disparity between the three cars.
Yeah, and it's one of those things about Nürburgring races. I mean, Stewie there taking his stance and blaming that on Whiffle, saying he left the door open and then closed it again. I'm sure Richard will have a different opinion to that. I'm sure Tigris will probably share Stewie's opinion. It shows you how much of racing can be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. Opinions do differ. That's why we have plenty of stewards in the box to take a look at things. It's hard there. I feel like on exit, probably Tigris has probably got the better exit there than Whiffle, and just not anticipated the speed difference. But like, you know, calm down, boys. You know, you've got 7 minutes left. I know you all want P12. You're all going to want to still pushing really hard. You're all pushing as hard as you can, but you know, sticking your nose where it doesn't need to be stuck is going to cause you more problems, and it helps there as that Porsche characteristically has a very loose back end, but still getting good power down side by side with Whiffle through this section here. This very high curb, so you don't want to be hitting them down through the jump. And yeah, Tigris ahead there, as you said, more pace we think than Whiffle, but still you just don't want to be causing yourself more hassle. And we cut here to Huel, a car I did want to mention actually, stopped late and has made that strategy work really, really well. We don't think taking tyres, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Stu, we don't think Huel has taken tyres. Yeah, definitely not taken tyres according to the pit stop times. Clippard neither as well, so Huel and Clippard not taking tyres. But Huel running a really good race inside the top 10, started way down the field, so good race there by Huel.
Yeah, good race there by Huel. As we go back on board with the replay with the trio, and I believe this is a mistake here by Clipper as we see Tigris has gone past, but now also Withall, and he just loses and goes out of the mini carousel. You go a little bit wide there, you get knocked out that carousel and lose a lot of time. But now we're back on the Dottinger-Ho, completely different order to what we had the previous lap with these three, and Richard Withall is in the slipstream of Tigris, going out to the left hand side. He wants the inside through this little kink, but the second he's goes to that left, the hole is no longer being punched, so he's relying just on the grunt of that BMW as they go through the kink and now into this section. It hasn't gone well previously between a BMW, but Richard Withall gets it done. Tigris just a little bit, you know, conservative there, lifting off, allowing Richard Withall to have the position. And once again, we start another lap, which seems to be the third different order we've had for these cars in that single lap. They are absolutely delivering the goods. Clippert now in the slipstream of Tigris. Is he going to have a look into turn one? Goes to the outside, goes for a little bit of a late braking. If he can hold it around the outside, that turns to the inside. But Tigris ultimately closes that off. And now we go into what will be the final lap, with it being Withall, Tigris, and Clipper. And I can almost guarantee it will not be that order when we cross the finish line. Dewey just going on board there with Lily Armstrong, who is sadly in the box. We're not sure why. With most likely at this stage in the race will be a late retirement.
Unfortunately for Lily, was one of the early stoppers, made an extra stop, and just, you know, too many instances. As we said, it is a very difficult race to sort of run this Nürburgring, this long format race, and it can be quite demoralising. Once you've got a couple of instances, you're way down out of where you should be. You know, your car's damaged. You don't really want to carry on. No harm in just pulling over and going, yep, that's enough for me, guys. I'll let you guys race on cleanly, or not so, as we see on screen. I think that this battle between the three of them is highlighting the difference in speed in different points of the circuit between some of these drivers and some of these cars. You know, you've got a BMW, a Porsche, and a BMW, but you know, these guys are faster in different areas than each other. You know, they've raced closely for the whole race now for, you know, an hour and 27 minutes already as we come onto this final lap. So they know where their advantages are now. They have probably actually worked that out over these sort of 11 laps we've had so far. And on this 12th and final one, it's really time to go for it. You know, if you're quicker through one section, you've only got one chance of that section left now. You know, and still got the dot in a hoe, the slipstream fest that's going to come from that. So, you know, you want to be making sure that you stay close. And do you want to be leading on to that big, long sort of back straight coming into those final few corners? We've seen, as you know, the top two of the top three come together in that sequence of corners after the dotting a hoe. That Porsche gets sideways coming through. And I can also say, I've just looked at the preview of Stewart's live stream, and I can currently see a BMW, a black, white and green BMW backwards off the track in a Porsche. So I believe that is them taking a look at that incident there, coming through into the final sector. So I believe it might already be done, actually. As we say, the live penalties, just some updates. We've got an incident on lap 9, sector 9, involving 48 and the 223. It's a racing incident, either a driver at fault. An incident on lap 9, sector 9, involving 223 and 48. Warning for car 223 for not holding the brakes. So that is, I believe, the only outcome of that incident, not holding the brakes. We've also got an incident on lap 10, turn 2, involving the 236 and the 15. It's just an NFA for minor contact. So no penalty being given out here. The race stewards just throwing out a warning for not holding the brakes, and maybe that was on purpose, you know, maybe knowing that they'd run across the track and block the Porsche, maybe feeling like they were a bit hard done by, maybe, you know, just the frustration getting the better of them. Obviously running across slick grass, it's not going to slow you down as quickly as you'd hope, even if you do hold the brakes, but the stewards do have access to all of the telemetry and all of the data to see, as we look at Whittle battling ahead of that Porsche still. It'll be a great lap from Whittle if he can hold them both off here.
It will be a great lap from Whittle. I think Clipper, you know, we've said he hasn't taken tyres, maybe just feeling that struggle. He was leading the training, having sort of track position seemed to be king for him, but now that he's lost to both of these cars, they do seem to be just gapping that little extra bit as we come through the sort of the miss section. It's a little bit wide. That scared me coming into this section. Bossy Tigris probably looking at after berg work now to go, right, I need to get that exit planted and utilize the next straight, noting that he's seen these guys been making mistakes for the past 3 or 4 laps now, so he might want to start, and we've seen the pressure he's applying, but he might want to start really applying pressure in those areas in order to make and sort of get those mistakes. We saw Whittle not really get that good of an exit here as we come up, turning left and into Bergwerk. Tigris probably not wanting to go side by side, but Richard Whittle taking a little bit of a defensive line. That's going to hinder his progress coming up the hill. And Tigris, now you can see the exit just rocket shipping out of that corner already alongside Richard Whittle, and he could be looking at all the way round the outside up this hill. This would be an outrageous move if he gets it stuck. And we're getting a little bit of lag on our stream. Sorry, Callum, to jump in, but he gets it coming into Bravery corner, the right-hander, just before Bravery. He gets it stuck. An incredible move. Set up all the way before the setup on Bergwerk there. Richard Whittle trying to have another go. but he doesn't think better of it as they come into the carousel section. That move was set up, applying the pressure, coming into Bergwerk, taking the outside lane, Richard Whittle going defensive, so Vossi knew he would have the better exit coming out of that. An incredibly calculated move, probably one he's been thinking about for a couple of laps, knowing sort of where the weaknesses and the strengths that his car has.
Yeah, they knew they had a good exit out of Bergwerk every lap there, as we see Forster around again in that Mercedes. Martin Forster off the track already. I think trying to just stay out the way potentially. I think that's Dalton. Yeah, that's John Dalton going through there onto the final run down the Dottinger Hole, I believe. So, yeah, probably just trying to stay out of the way of John, but also sort of causing themselves a bit of grief. Down in 21st, I don't think it'll cause a place loss unless that is Ted Edwards coming up. I believe it is. It might have caused a place loss there for the Mercedes. And as we cut back to our battle, it's really a two-way fight at the moment. It's Rossi versus Whittle, isn't it? Really, sort of the Mercedes too far back as RCI's own John Dalton comes up to the line, lights ablaze to win the hour and a half race here for the Deutschland Masters, the final race of season 2 of the Deutschland Masters. Nicole Fox comes across the line to take a very, very hard-earned second place, and we believe it is going to be Hansel in the BMW. Yeah, there we come, third place here. 15 seconds separates the top 3 after an hour and a half of racing, and Lindgren coming across the line in 4th, just not quite enough to catch up and cause any stress or grief for the top 3 there.
Yeah, an incredible run from those top 3. There's been drama up and down the field as we see Yao Mansa and Raphael Huel coming across the line in P8 and P9 respectively. Brilliant results there, especially from Raphael Huel. Definitely one of my standout performers. I think earlier on in this race I saw him as low as P20 or P21 as Richard Whittle is still right on the back of Tigris here. They've been swapping positions for the past 3 laps and this is going to go right to the wire. Whittle a little bit slow coming around that corner, but now is going to get tucked in behind on the Dottinger Hole while that Porsche punches a hole in the air for him, tucking into that slipstream, and you can already see the benefits. This BMW is just going to exponentially gain more and more speed as we come down this straight. He realistically needs to be side by side as we come over into the gantry. I don't actually think he's going to be close enough this time, but it's rapidly closing. He is going to be side by side coming into the gantry. We could have some late drama here, Callum, as they're side by side coming into this corner that we've already seen. There is contact. There's big contact.
No.
Tigris off to the left. Richard Whittle off to the right, coming across the grass and into the barrier. That's ultimately going to see Tigris coming across, and Clippert may even benefit from this getting past Whittle, who shot back massively, but I think Whittle is going to just about hold on. An absolute shame that ended up in contact right at the end. That's going to be one for the stewards, but as we've seen already in this race, 2-1 just does not go there.
Yeah, you can't really go 2x2 through there, not these guys at the minute, but big shame to end it in contact. But as I said, he's got to try it. He's got to try it through there. You've got, it's the last lap as we cut to Will Roberts in that beautiful orange Kaiju liveried car coming through to take 15th place overall. But yeah, you've got to try it through that. It's a last lap, big commitment, and fair play to them. They did initially run it in through side by side pretty well, but just not quite able to make it work all the way through the corner, as we see Partez coming through in that Mercedes to round out the top 15, we believe. Some of these guys will finish a lap down, so have already finished. The likes of Ted Edwards, Forster, and Filmator have already finished a lap down. But yeah, you've got to give it a go, and yeah, the stewards will look at it for sure, but I'm pretty certain that's going to be an NFA. And I can see John Dalton is just joined the ready for interview box for after this race. We've still got a few more cars to come over the line though. Byron here for Sim Brothers Racing in that Porsche is, I think, our last car on the... No, I tell a lie. We've got 2 more cars. We've got the 46, I believe, and the... I think I can't quite make that last number out. The 508 maybe of Varga still coming in through. So that's Les Stevenson, one of RCI's very own, and Varga there still on the lap, coming through final few sectors as Byron comes across the line to finish. Top 16 points for everyone who finished here today, which is a big thing. Les Stevenson there, damage to the front end of that Porsche, that bright blue and green Porsche. Coming through, I believe that is, let me check my trap map, maybe that is Brunchen coming down towards Ice Curve, and then Flansgarden 1 and 2. And then he's just got the mini carousel, Ganglenpoth, and the dotting a hole to do some. I thought I'd just throw in as much German as we possibly could. Coming over the jump and then down into the right hander. Big commitment through there. Through, I believe that's Flansgarden. But yeah, really big, dominant performance by John Dalton at the end of that. 11.5 seconds off. Cutting the corner there, Les. Still fighting, still pushing on these curves, even though it's on the final lap. But yeah, John with the fastest lap and the race win.
Yeah, dominant performance by John, who we will hop in for an interview shortly, but I'm going to utilise this time to actually give a big love and shout out to our partners. AK Esports are a long-standing partner here at RCI and a top provider of premium esports services and equipment, server support, event management, coaching, and even hardware. IK Esports offers everything you need to elevate the sim racing experience. Moser Racing, who need no introduction, are a partner here at RCI, and they are a leading provider in high quality sim racing gear. So if you're looking to just getting into sim racing, or looking at your first steps, or needing an upgrade to boost that sort of driving experience, Moser have you covered. Coach Dave's Delta, it's never been easier to find lap time with Coach Dave Delta, who are providing the highest quality setups, data analysis, optimal racing lines across multiple simming platforms, including ACC, iRacing, LMU, and even GT7. I noticed in our Friday championship, a lot of people are using the Coach Dave Delta to get to grips with LMU at the minute. But if you're seeking a second or even a 10th, Coach Delta will have your back on that. I can guarantee that. Greenman Gaming are a new partner to RCI, where you can buy all the best games that are on offer for really a fraction of the cost, from the newest games like AC Evo, which has recently come out, to masterpieces like Red Dead Redemption 2. You will struggle to beat and find a price that really beats Green Man Gaming. And of course, a massive shout out to Motorsport UK, who have RCI as a recommended community. All our partners are in the description. We have Peter Varga crossing the last car to cross the line of our 90 minutes of the Nordschleife here, and we are just about to run to our final standings. John Dalton, a commanding and well-deserved win, even with that crash and that drama, steals the victory. Nicole Fox stuck it in P12, also had a bit of drama there. Onzel benefited from some late Christian Lindgren and Tobias Sontag drama to claim P3. Lindgren managing to hold on to P4. Joe Dorber, haven't seen him all race, but he picks up a P5. Very quiet, very clean, very collective, and picks up P5, as well as Vlad Will, someone we didn't see a lot on the broadcast. Remaining results are on your screen. I think we are going to hop or jump into a couple of interviews now.
Just quickly before we do that, though, I just wanted to point out something that's just come through in the stewards booth. Incident on lap 11, sector 9, involving the 15 and the 957. It was a 5-second penalty for Richard Whittle. So they judged that to be Richard Whittle's fault there, that side-by-side door banging through, just before we go into interviews. I don't think it affected the race result in any way, shape or form, but yeah, just a note, 5-second penalty for him there. So was judged as by the stewards as his fault.
Oh, just a testament to the rapid stewarding that we have here at RCI to manage to turn around that before we even get to interviews is incredible. But I do actually think that would have meant he lost out the position to Clipper. I do just want to jump in and talk to our race winner, John Dalton, or I do want to own up, John. We have been calling you Judas Dalton all race due to your betrayal of the commentary booth today. But I think you could probably say it was worth it.
That was a worthy betrayal. I think anything less, I'd take on the name. Renamed in nearly on pace to Chad Dalton. Well, somehow, I don't know. But yeah. It's weird to be front of the grid and win as well, because normally I bottle it, and I made one mistake today, and I somehow got away with.
Yeah, just coming in, John. Hi, it's been a while since we spoke. Obviously, we go back to the commentating together back when I started with RCI. But what did you think when that incident happened and you had that damage? Was it, as I said in comms, I said maybe you were trying it for a lap to see how it felt? Did you know how bad it was going to be? Did you think at any point you were going to stop to try and fix that, or what was your sort of mindset behind that with that damage?
Yeah, I mean, I chucked it into the Kleiner carousel, maybe a bit too hard, or I tried to jump out of it a bit too fast. I was certainly pushing because pit stops were looming, trying to build a gap to Sontag behind. Came out of the carousel sideways, thought I caught it, snapped back the other way, and then I just got a face full of Armco. 10 seconds of aero damage, no suspension damage. Um, I was literally seeing how it felt through the next few laps, and the 10 seconds in the pit stop. In hindsight, I probably could have got away with had I known what was going to happen. However, with obviously Sontag looming, I even mispositioned the car in the box as well, so that cost me another 5 seconds pit stop. I think had I taken the damage, it certainly would have been like the undoing.
Yeah, fair enough. And you know, as much as we say Judas for you jumping out the box, thank you, because it's given me a chance very late to jump into the box. Obviously, really sort of decided it today that this was going to happen, but it's nice to be back commentating, and I'm sure we'll wangle our way onto a series together at some point. As much as I've enjoyed this Callum duo here, I've heard you do sometimes call Callum with a K, Callum with a C sometimes. So yeah, nice to know that I'm not forgotten when I had my long hiatus, but hopefully be back with you in the booth soon.
Yeah, certainly too many Callums. It's great to hear you again. I'm going to watch back the broadcast and see what happened behind me, front or in that like leading pack. You often miss everything kicking off behind. So I'm sure it's going to make for a great watch back later.
Thank you, John. And well, Nordschleife giveth and Nordschleife taketh, not only in the race but also in the comms booth with the John and Callum swap. John, just before I let you go, is there anyone you want to give a quick shout out before we talk to our championship winner?
Yeah, just a big shout out really to everyone that's known me. I would say across the years through RCI, nearly on pace, SJ and H, stewards behind the scenes, you guys in the booth. Just everyone that makes this kind of spectacle possible. Yeah, it's great to be everyone, including nearly on pace and the RCI esports side of things as well from last weekend. So, just a big thank you to everyone involved, partner that puts up with virtual race car shenanigans.
Thank you, John. And we're going to move swiftly onto our championship winner by quite a margin and some dominating performances this season, Marco Badowski. Welcome, Marco, and a massive congratulations for picking up the championship here at the Deutschland Masters Season 2. It almost felt like a near perfect season for you, other than a mere P4 in Kota and ultimately this race as well. What was the strategy going into this race? Well, firstly, how was your race, and what was the strategy? Were you coming in just to score points because that's what you knew you needed, or were you really gunning out for as best a result as possible?
Yeah, so at first, thank you for the congratulations. And I just had a look at the standings before the race, and I saw that I was ahead by 68 points. So, easily said, if Kumpu doesn't get pole, I win the championship. When I saw that he wouldn't start on pole, it was a little bit weight of my shoulders, because if you screw up a championship position like this, it's in a 90-minute Nordschleife race definitely. So from there on out, I would just be able to race with a clear mind and push quite aggressively, especially on my second stint. So I just did the 50-50 strategy with a tire change and running on as low little fuel as possible.
Yeah,
Well,
Martin. Sorry, Callum, to cut in, but yeah, I thought that would be a way to go. Working within sort of racing and real life GT racing before, I thought cutting it 50-50 would be fine. Obviously, keeping a clean nose was part of that as well. I imagine sort of trying to stay out of as much trouble as possible. We saw you get a little touch up the rear end from I think it was one of the BMWs on sort of T1 lap 1, but other than that, nothing too major. So more of a race of attrition, and like you said, keeping yourself clean and just sort of surviving to bring home points that you knew would mean that you won the championship as soon as you pretty much started the race.
Yeah, exactly. Like that was the way to go. It's like obviously when you settle into the race, like the first 2 or 3 laps, especially with my damage that I had on the rear end, it slowed me down a little bit on the straight and made the car slightly worse on handling, but it was still fairly manageable, and I managed to build a gap to the car behind, which is like the most important thing for me, so I don't get under too much pressure.
Well, Marco, well done on an incredible race. It's brilliant. So I believe this is your first championship win here with RCI, and I know you've been racing here for a number of. Well, I've seen you in the past few seasons, and not been racing you because you're usually way quicker than I am. But a massive congratulations and a well deserved. I don't know if you watched the first broadcast back, but I sat there and I was rooting for the Aldis because not a lot of people picked it, and you shown this championship that the Audi is still very much the loved car, and one that can clearly win championships if in the right hands. Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to shout out? Any thanks you want to give to anyone, or in your team, or in your personal life?
Like yeah, first and foremost, I want to shout out Vaga for actually finishing this race. He put up with quite a lot of unfortunate situations from what I've heard in voice chat, and all my friends that stayed in voice chat with me and gave me some entertaining company throughout the 90 minutes or even more. And obviously for everyone involved in RCI making these sorts of championship possible, which make the sim racing like the most fun it can be, in my opinion.
Thank you, Marco. Congratulations on a first championship. More Mondays, Janettas maybe? Potentially might see you back in a few weeks' time for Janettas.
I don't know.
You've got a
Like
championship to defend now, Marco. We've got to see you in the Janettas.
it's not the German Master Season 3, so. But like I'll try to make it work. So
Well,
like it's also
it'd
on
be great
Mondays,
to have
right?
you there. Yeah. Also on Mondays, will probably be the same times. Great to have you there. Obviously, as a reigning Mondays champion to defend your title. But as you said, I'm sure we'll be back for Deutschland Masters Season 3 at some point. So again, just another one of RCI's events that you'll have to come back and see if anyone can come close. You have as close to dominated a series as you possibly could do, with consistent good points finishes, and that's what's won you this championship. So, see who can come close, maybe a bit of a BOP tweak, hopefully see some more Audis in there. But yeah, thank you very much, Marco.
Yep, thank you too. And well, hopefully we'll see each other on Fridays on the More Ultimate or the next Monday Championship.
Hopefully, thank you for promoting all the other stuff that we have here going on RCI. Obviously, the RI Racing 6-hour series that's coming up, and the Le Mans Ultimates that we're halfway through our first ever Le Mans Ultimate season on our Fridays. And as Callum has mentioned, the next Monday championship will be the Janettas, something that I am outrageously excited for as a Janetta lover. Well, that's it. Another season has finished, and what an incredible season it's been. One of definitely my favourite season that I've ever commentated on here at RCI, and one that is definitely worth going back and watching, not only this round, but all the other rounds, to really see Marco fighting for those wins, the 3 out of 5 he got. Just before I say goodbye, I want to say a massive thank you to our live stewards. An incredible job they did here. A lot of things to go through that happened, especially in the earlier points in the race, and an incredible job they do week in, week out, to bring these championships to us. Dewey behind the lens doing an incredible job, not only providing you the incredible pictures, but providing me and Callum with all the knowledge that we miss out on, because ultimately we don't have the brain capacity that Stewie has, and he's always there to quickly correct us with all the correct knowledge that we miss out on. And of course to the co-commentator Callum Kerwin, who I can quite confidently say that he spells his name incorrectly. It's not spelt with a C at this stage. So yeah, from everyone in the stewards booth, in the, well, Stewie behind the lens, and from myself and Callum Squared, thank you and take care, and we'll see you on the next Monday Championship.
You ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Get behind the wheel, let's go. Grip the road, feel the flow. Thunder roaring, steel alive. Live this dream and drive. Tires burning with gasoline. Push the limits, chasing green. One shot, don't slow. Go on, we'll take control. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. We're chasing taillights. The miles they fade, but they don't die. Faster now, the hours fly by. Sweat and gears, hearts in sync. On the edge, on the brink. Clock ticks down, stakes are high. One mistake, we kiss us goodbye. Don't slow down, we're not done. Finish line for the strong ones. Engines scream alive tonight. Blazing past the red line. Outrun the night, won't lose this fight. Follow the road, red line for show. We're chasing taillights, don't let go. Under the stars, we'll go so far. This is who we are. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Chasing taillights. Feel the rush, see the goal. Every second, take control. The world blurs, time won't wait. We rise, we fight, we accelerate. 3, 2, 1, go. Follow the road, red line for show.